And a happy Monday morning to you. Welcome to the EST Hangout, which is presented by Mott's Clamato. Caesar available in both original and variety 12 packs. Great pack size for entertaining and hanging out with friends. And with that, I'd like to welcome to the show today returning guest Quinn Phillips, who I think you might have the most appearances outside of like Walking Gage, who's on every week, and Jay Milne, EST Glue Guy. So
EST Glue Guy has more appearances than me?
Well, he's on like every week now.
I'm up. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm upset. Well, I'm a little behind. Sorry, I was in
but
another place.
You're not coming in every week. So,
Okay.
like, he doesn't count.
I'm
but
never
beyond
gonna catch
that,
him.
I think you're
This
there.
is number 4 for me.
And then it's a bit of a reunion as Tom Vernon joins us now with Crestview Strategy.
Yeah.
Former coworker with Quinn at Global.
Yes. I remember working with Quinn, and we sat kind of on the same side of the building.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we annoyed I know Julia sitting behind me. I would always be annoyed, or she'd always be annoyed because we'd be calling over and we'd be talking Oilers hockey over top of Vin as he's trying to work. And, so.
Zero boundaries in that place whatsoever.
boundaries,
yes, but Tom Vernon, one of the nicest men in the newsroom.
It worked out so great having the two of you together.
Well,
and it's great having, like, 'cause I've never met you.
Yeah.
Longtime fan of your work.
Yes,
I'm a
appreciate that.
political nerd and all of that stuff. So seeing you in the political affairs beat, like, honestly, like if I wasn't in sports, that's a dream job for me. So the fact that you got to do that's amazing.
And it's funny, I started as not really a sports guy, but I was a sports reporter, a lot of sports reporting before moving into politics because they needed someone to do that in Regina. So they kind of steered me to politics, and I went away from covering the Riders to covering the Wall government. It was just so.
Oh, how did that go?
Oh, whatever. I'm a politics nerd as well, right? So whatever, sports nerd, politics nerd, it all worked out.
What's more dysfunctional, politics or the Edmonton Oilers right now?
I had six
Excellent
Well, hold
segue.
on. I had 6 premiers. I covered 6 premiers in Alberta in my 9 years as provincial affairs reporter, and that's from 13. And we've had 5 Oiler coaches since 15.
Yep.
Yeah, about that.
So
I think
so. You've got 1 to go before they catch the.
And only a year. I don't know. We might get there.
we will get into the Oilers. That's what we're going to talk a lot about here on the EST Hangout today. But before we do that, so what are you up to nowadays?
Yeah, Crestview Strategy.
Yes.
I'm the blanket term consulting. I'm working with organizations to help them tell their stories and working many different ways, whether it's helping them get on the news and tell their story that way, writing op-eds, doing internal communications. It's storytelling just a different way.
Better hours than media?
Different hours, right? With media, your story airs at 6 and you're done.
Yeah.
This job, you might have to take a call at 7 o'clock at night. You got to get some deliverable. So different hours, just as fun. Different atmosphere. Right? I'm not working in a newsroom anymore, but still working with some really cool people.
Do you get into the Oilers discussion and annoy other people too, like you did with Quinn?
It's so funny. We have an internal Crestview sports chat. So I was put in the first day, right? Because they knew I was a sports. And I was like, here we go. And it's mostly Premier League soccer. And
really?
Yeah. And I love soccer, but I don't watch Premier League soccer. So 90% of the Crestview Sports chat, I'm kind of just a viewer.
I love that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of some NFL chat in there, but not a lot of NHL chat, not a lot of Oiler fans.
You're just gonna have to get into that soccer.
Yeah,
wake up Saturday, Sunday mornings and start watching some Premier League action.
So back in the 90s, I was in Europe and was like, well, I'm going to buy a soccer jersey. So I went, and the only team I'd ever heard of was Man United. So I go up and I buy this Man United. I grab this jersey, I look at the back, and I go up to the till. I go, is this player any good? He looks at it. Yeah, he's okay. It was a Beckham jersey. So this is 98. So he was just.
Right. Okay. I was going to say.
Yeah.
When did you do this?
98.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So I was an early adopter to the Beckham jerseys in high school.
Stay with United. I'm a United supporter here, even though it's been a bad year. Actually, there's a lot of similarities between United and the Oilers of the last decade. It's incredible. Just we won't get into that because people don't want to hear soccer of all days.
So sports
coaching
brings
changes,
you so much joy and happiness and no stress.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be a great year for United after last year, and there's already talk of a coaching change again there.
Oh, stop.
Since 2013, they've had David Moyes, Louis Van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and now on Eric Ten Hag. So potentially looking at a 6 change since 2013.
Here we go. They go through coaches like we go through premiers.
Yeah, it's an up and down thing. It's wild over there too. It's very similar to what's going on here outside of not having Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Before we get to the Oilers too, you were in Australia.
I was in Australia.
How was that?
Oh man, it was really cool. I mean, obviously the weather is so great. I only had a couple rainy days, and that was kind of,
So
a little bit
spring?
of relief. Yeah, it was their spring. So on top of it, it's only like 22 to 25 degrees. So it's like totally manageable, but the ocean is still pretty warm. The one thing I will say, the biggest disappointment is their beer selection over there.
Why?
All they have at every single bar, and I get why, and I'm a dark beer lover, and I get why they don't have them over there because it's so warm, right? But all they have is lagers, pilsners, and then pale ales. Pale ales are everywhere. And I don't mind pale ales. So like, but there were some bad ones over there. And like usually at restaurants, like you'd have like a selection of maybe 3 different types of beers, a lager, a pilsner, and a pale ale. And it was just like, this is so different from home. And I'm such a beer drinker. I love beer. And so that was like, I went to a couple really good breweries and found some good beers and stuff. But that was my biggest disappointment was the beer selection at restaurants.
I say that'd be perfect for me. I love just a lager or pill. I don't like a lot of the other stuff too much. That is just perfect.
I
for
like
me.
beer with flavor, so
Yeah, I'll venture into lagers. I've gotten into my sister worked at one of the local breweries here and got me into the New England pale ales. Right.
Okay.
So that's all I drink now. So yeah, I'd go for the pale ales. But yeah, if you go somewhere and your choice is Foster's or whatever the Foster's Light would be over there, yeah, that'd be a little bit of a disappointment.
And they had a lot of different breweries. Some were good, some were really bad, but there was one that I went to, Sea Legs.
Oh yeah.
They had incredible beers, and they actually had some darker beers. They had some American ales and stuff like that. So I found my happy place in Brisbane.
Did you come across any snakes or spiders?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about this.
Because I couldn't do that.
I know you don't even want to go. Okay, so, well, I'll pull up the picture eventually. The worst thing I came up against was a huge cockroach on my bed in the hotel in Sydney. And I had like just gotten out of bed and then I saw it and I was like, it completely derailed my morning. I just stood there staring at it being like, I don't know what to do. And then I texted friends back home and it was snowing that day. And they're like, everything died here. And I was like, I want to be there right now. That was like my welcome to Australia moment. But
was that
no,
early?
Sydney was like, well, yeah, it was like within the first week of me being there. Yeah. So it came quickly. Never spiders. I really actually wanted to see like maybe a huntsman because they're like huge spiders.
Yeah.
I wanted to see it like in a controlled setting, like
What, like
on
into
the
a zoo
side
or
of
something?
a building,
Okay.
like when I'm like 10
With an
feet
Irwin
away,
holding it
you
down,
know,
yes.
like, and you just don't go off the beaten path. Like I did one time, we were walking to this like secluded beach and I was like so scared the whole time. I was just like screaming and I had a towel over my head in case like a python fell out of the tree and landed on my head.
Because the towel's going to help.
That's rational thinking for you. Yeah. So, but yeah, honestly, if you go and you're in the cities, you won't see anything. So we're going to get you there.
Except they're watching you. They're hidden and they're paying attention. No, see, they get you at
Looking
night.
for a moment of weakness.
Just like the cockroach did with you. Fast asleep, and there it showed up.
Oh my God.
See?
I slept with the lights on the next day. And then the third night that I was there, I was like, you have got to woman up. Like, it doesn't really matter if it crawls on you at night. But I actually went down to the front desk and like hotel staff dealt with it. I was like, this situation.
Like, how
needs to
big
be-
are we talking here?
Oh, it was like that big.
You ever been to Australia?
Not Australia, no.
No.
I went to Freetown, Sierra Leone.
Okay.
And the last day in my room there, I was staying in a house, and I was packing up all my stuff, and there was this bureau on the wall. I was like, oh, did I put anything in there? And I opened it up, and there was a spider, probably about this big, with it's entirely webbed up in there. Like, well, had I discovered that the first day, I don't know where I would have stayed. I was there 3.5 weeks, and I don't know where I would have slept. Yeah.
No. Okay, I gotta see if I can bring this up to the camera quickly. That is just wrong. Dear God.
It's big.
No, I don't even want to look at that picture anymore.
I know. Trust me. If you zoom in, like, look at
No.
the hairy legs.
I don't want you to zoom in.
Where on the bed was it? Like, was it
was
near
like-
your face?
It was at the head of the bed behind my pillow.
So it's been there like, you don't even know
I don't
how long.
even know how
Killing
long. Yeah.
I wouldn't have stayed at that, like, at the very least, I wouldn't have stayed in that room. I would have asked for a new room entirely.
it might
like,
have been-
Get me somewhere else. Even though Oh,
That thing
Yeah.
cuddled up with you all night, like cuddles with Quinn, that cockroach.
Well, nothing
Cuddles
happened.
with Quinn.
Cuddles. I have to be honest. Okay, so like, and I was like, okay, you're fine. Like, just be a grown up. Like, people live in this, right? And so I like went because I was going to the Bondi Beach pool to swim that morning. I was like an hour later than I wanted to be, and I went for breakfast, and I honestly just felt like my breakfast tastes like cockroach, and I like couldn't handle it. I don't know what cockroach tastes like.
Sarah was a
but-
bit crispy this morning.
Oh no! Well, yeah,
little hairy.
They put this weird sauce like on their breakfast wraps everywhere. This barbecue sauce that I hated, and that's essentially what that was. Essentially, like I was like that's what a cockroach tastes like is this barbecue sauce. Oof. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I'm glad you got back. You're alive. And
Yeah,
that
I'm
cockroach
alive.
didn't-
The flight was totally
word.
flight was the easiest part. That was the thing I was most worried about. So
Did you just like
I drugged
drink up?
myself.
Yeah, okay.
I drugged myself. Yeah.
That's kind of the key.
Yeah.
People are wondering, saying, why am I wearing a Flames hoodie? I'm not. It's actually a Canada soccer hoodie by Adidas. That says goal.
This is goal.
That's it. That's what this is. It's actually Canada, not the Flames. I would never wear a Flames hoodie. Like
would you even own one?
no. Like there would be no reason for me to even come close to wearing unless I lost a bet. That's the closest I will ever come to wearing something Calgary in general. I'll wear almost
Yeah.
anything else. Not Calgary. Not as
Yeah.
born and raised Edmontonian. Not a chance. Not a chance. So this is Canada, actually.
I was raised by Rod Phillips. I had no choice. Like there is an amount of hatred in that household for anything Calgary. So
I could imagine how it would be saying, Dad, I'd rather cheer for the Calgary Flames.
I wouldn't have a dad anymore. I'd be alone.
With that, let's get into the story of the last, it's been a couple of weeks, but the big story since yesterday. And with that, it's time for Movers and Shakers, brought to you by the Marco and Mike Realty. Realty One Group Insiders. Visit marcoandmike.com for more information on this dynamic duo. Let them earn your trust. And the Edmonton Oilers yesterday, they do it. They fire Jay Woodcroft. They fire Dave Manson. They bring in Chris Knobloch to be the head coach. And Paul Coffey, who doesn't want to coach, he's going to be the assistant coach. Initially, just your first thoughts of when you got that news.
I was remembering back. So after the game on Saturday and watching the post game, and they showed the Woodcroft scrum, he seemed it felt off, right? And he was down. And you guys know him a lot better than I would. Like you've been in scrums with him and interviewed him, but it was just like. He didn't seem overly ecstatic that they'd won the game and how well they played. He was just sort of like, telling the story. And he was like, oh, that's odd. You think you'd be happier he got a win. And then, the news then comes the next day. It wasn't exactly the feeling like when Kruger was fired over Skype, but it was that same sort of like, oh, well, why today? And obviously it was just, it had all been predetermined. But then I had to go look up Chris Knobloch and kind of figure out his backstory. And I get that he was the junior coach and okay, he's coaching in Hartford, but I didn't really know that much about him. And at this phase with this team, I mean, my worry was we were going to get some old coach to like not Sutter, but that sort of thing where it's like, oh God, they're going to go down that path. So at least it's someone new. But this phase, this stage of this team where it's honestly this year cup or at least finals or it's a bust year, to go with someone that's how many coaches in the NHL? Like 4 games when with the Rangers when their head coach was down with illness, right? But other than that,
no real head coaching experience in the NHL. Paul Coffey has none.
And it's just like this is an important year, right? And it's just I hope it goes well. I can't speak to him how he is as a coach. His success along the way, but.
Well, I'll say if you're making this move in my mind at this point for this team, I'd rather see the veteran coach come in. Like for this, if you're going to make this firing at this time, I'd rather see some experience on this bench to try to get these players going because you're trying to get a cup. If you're going all inexperience basically here, that's a big, bold risk in itself to me that I don't know if that's worth getting rid of Jay, especially after an impressive victory against Seattle, probably their second best game this season. Look at that.
I don't even know where to start. Like, and I've been thinking about this so much and taking so much in that I feel like my thoughts are very jumbled, but I'm with you. So it's funny. And I want to bring this up because this guy on Twitter was like, Oilers fans complain about the old boys club, and then they get rid of the old boys club and hire somebody different, and the fans are still mad. I'm like, well, bud, did you see that they hired Paul Coffey? It doesn't get more old boys club than that. But then he was like, oh, well, you just wanted like the old head coaching guard. And I was just like, this team wants and needs experience right now. Mm-hmm. But then I thought about it and I was just like, okay, yeah, like, so that's a temporary fix. That's yet another temporary fix because like one of those hard ass coaches isn't lasting here.
No, I've been throwing out the Gerard Gallant for the last week, but every time I say that, I've also been saying you only get him for 2 years.
Yeah.
He loses the room in 2 years.
So,
you deal with that then.
Yeah.
It's to save this season entirely. Otherwise, I think you just go with it as is. But no, you're right. Like if any of those guys, it's a short shelf life.
It's just yet another temporary fix, right? But the timing of this is it's just insanity to me. Like I would just really love to know what the discussion was, and we didn't really get a lot of in on that at the press conference yesterday. Like a little bit, but
we don't know who's made the decision.
We don't even know who's made the final decision.
You know, and it's hard not to think that the CEO of all this made the final call. But he couldn't sit there and say it was me. He's saying it was a group effort because it just I don't know. My gut says Ken Holland's only still employed with this team as a scapegoat, as the guy who will defend these decisions, as a guy that is there front facing. They don't want to get rid of him yet because it didn't seem like he was the guy yesterday that made this decision, but he had to answer for it.
I find that to be super interesting because it's like we're talking about the legacy of a man now. Mm-hmm. After what he did in Detroit, it's really like now you're just like watching this guy fizzle away and like let other people make decisions like this.
So in the offseason, there's all that talk about, okay, what's the succession plan, right?
Yeah.
So Ken Holland, who's next? And it was like you guys were talking a lot of it, because you guys were talking a lot about, okay, is it Steve Staios? And then that kind of, he went off there. Where this franchise is, and again, with 1 year left to Leon Draisaitl, 2 years left to Connor McDavid, and we head into this summer. After the season, sorry, yes, that's what I mean. They're at a position where we don't know who the guy this summer is going to be, and when do the conversations begin with Leon Draisaitl? Who's starting those conversations? Is it Jackson? Like, is he leading this? I can't imagine he's going to be the general manager of the team. He's got a job up here to do. So
interesting negotiations with an agent,
right? It's sure, but it's just we're at this point where if Ken Holland's not your guy, and he's not going to be a guy next summer, and he's, as you said, lame duck, not really making the decisions. Well, shouldn't we have the guy that's actually making the decisions, have this plan in place? Because if I'm these stars looking at, okay, this season, I don't want to call it a loss, but it's not looking great this year. Okay, so what are we going to do next year and the year after in our last years on this team? And do I see myself beyond this? I think I'd want to see a long-term plan sooner rather than later, particularly with a new head coach in place and a new assistant coach in place. Is Paul Coffey long-term?
No, I think I think it's going to be for this season and then be reevaluated.
Right.
But I don't see him wanting to stay around. When he was even said yesterday, Jeff Jackson asked me if I want to coach, and I said no.
Yeah, right?
Cool.
So
we're so thrilled to have you.
The team must be so excited that this coach is coming in. The defense be like, this guy really wants to be here to help us.
And what's the problem with this team? It's defense and goaltending.
Not according to Paul Coffey.
Like, it's just, and is Paul, like, all the respect in the world for what Paul Coffey's accomplished, and he may come in and be a brilliant coach. Who knows? But I mean, we all remember that cartoon with him holding the book upside down, skating. He was an offensive defenseman, and that's not where they're struggling this year. So I just worry about what's the defensive structure going to like, and maybe that's an Oblak, I don't know. But
it's not supposed to be, I would say, because why is Paul Coffey here? Like, he's here for the defense. He's got to focus on that, and Knoblauch's got to focus on the accountability, I guess, if you will. I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't be completely stunned if Ken Holland's re-signed.
Sure.
I like if they're like
sure.
Part of it. I still think he's lame duck and all that. Yeah. But if they are actually telling the truth yesterday, saying it's been a team decision, we allowed Ken Holland and us, we made this decision together, then why are you getting rid of this coach or this GM at the end of the season? If it's truly legitimately, they all discussed it. Why is he walking away? Why would you allow him? Because then why'd you let him make this decision?
And that's fine. And then let's give him the contract.
Sure.
So we don't have that lame duck status. And every, come trade deadline, what's every question going to be around this team? who's making the decision. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be, is Ken Holland making the decision? And that's not what this team needs right now. This team needs to be sole focused on start winning some games.
Yep.
And I'm not convinced they win tonight. We all thought they were like.
I don't think this is the coaching bump that like a Claude Julien come in does.
Yeah.
Because part of this does feel like, I don't care what Jeff Jackson has to say. Part of it feels like McDavid's involved in this. His line mate in the summers here, his agent is running this team now, and his junior coach is now the head coach.
Well, and if he didn't have any say in this specific decision, it started with Jeff Jackson, right? Like, you know, like if that just like if he was like involved with that decision to bring him in, then it doesn't even matter if he was involved in this decision, because that is the trickle down effect of what this is. Right. So, and this drives me crazy. You're going to bring Chris in and you want him to succeed, and you are just giving him a coaching staff.
Yeah.
He couldn't even answer that.
Bring this guy in to succeed.
Yeah.
Allow him to do what he needs to do. So now you've got this big brother connection to the owner. And some other, like Gully, I love him. He's a good guy. I think he's a good motivator for the players. I think the players really do like him. But like, this is his fourth coach or fifth.
When did he join? He joined with Todd?
I think he joined with Todd because Todd had to make changes when he got rid of Jay Woodcroft on that side. I think then Gulletson came in at that point.
Yeah.
So then would have stuck with Hitch after that, but that's interim. But okay, that's still there.
Yeah.
Then Tippett.
Yeah.
Then Woody.
Yeah.
So yeah.
This is his fifth coach.
Oh, geez.
This is his fifth coach, right? And it's just like, I don't care who you are. Like, how do you adjust over and over again to different coaches? And
Nooch has played for over half of the coaches of Oilers history.
oh my gosh.
That's what Dusty, I think that's what he threw up today. Like, of all the coaches in history, he's played for over half of them now. I think he's played for 9 of the 17 or whatever it is.
Because who was the coach when he joined? It would have been.
He started with, I was looking it up, I think Rennie, then goes to Kruger,
Rennie,
goes to Aikens, gets McT for a couple games, goes to Todd Nelson, McClellan, Hitchcock. Then that leads to Tippett, Woodcroft. Now he's going to get his 10th coach. At least has played for at least for one game. Tonight will be his 10th coach with the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, it's all good. It's all going fine, you guys.
I know, but then like just going back to Chris, like so now you come in and you have to adjust to these guys rather than just coming in. Like, how are you setting this guy up for success?
And that's why I don't think there's a coaching bump tonight as much, because it seems like you just said it there. He has to adjust to these players, not them having to adjust to the new coach. New coaching bump is supposed to be adjusted to the new coach.
Yeah.
He comes in, he kicks some cans around, he throws some sticks, and the players go, "Oh, we got to pick this up." I don't think that's happening.
Can he stop some pucks? Like that's the biggest thing,
that's
right?
That's a great question too.
The goaltending. If the goaltending doesn't improve, I don't
no
care
one's
who
going to
you have
succeed
back there. Like it's just that is the A1 thing they need to fix. I don't know how they fix that. Like it's unless Stuart Skinner finds his game magically. Played well last game. The defense around him, like I know they only gave up 18 shots, but look at the saves he had to make. It's not like they were 18 muffins coming at him. Like he had to make some tough saves.
The number of shots does not matter.
No,
they allow 2 goals on 4 shots. So
the ones that it's the shots they give up.
It
right?
does that, yeah.
And
there could be 7 shots on net, and
so,
it's still a big night because they made some saves.
They won that game because Zach Hyman in the first period went.
Yeah,
well, I'm going to score 3 goals and away we go. The second and third period, like that was I don't even say an even game. So I didn't like their game in the third period, to be honest with you. I mean, they got outshot 9-0. They could not handle that Seattle forecheck, right? So they'd be in their own end, Seattle coming in forecheck, and they couldn't get out of the zone. So they were able to generate no offense. And you hear the argument of, oh no, they had the lead, they just shut her down. This team ain't there. Like,
they can't afford that.
You're second last in the league. Let's get moving the puck this way, because the way the goaltending's been this year, you're right. They only gave up 18 shots. They only got 1 goal on that. How many nights did they only give up 18 shots? And Jay said it in his post-game comments. And that's what really, it's nice to only give up 18 shots and win a game. It's nice to, get 40 shots and win or whatever, more than
He was
got
throwing a
20
lot of
shots.
stats.
Yeah, like
in that post game to kind of be like,
really weird about
hey,
that,
this
right?
isn't all on me.
Right. So
'Cause
that
he knew.
was that weird feeling. Like I said, we're watching, I was like, that didn't feel like a normal Jay Woodcroft media avail, right? And he kept saying over again, it's nice to, give up fewer than 27 shots and win. It's nice to only give up 18 shots and win a game. It was just really like,
It's even pregame, his press conference. He seemed almost like the world was off his shoulders.
He knew.
He didn't care. He knew it was coming.
Yeah.
He could just say what he needed to. And let's go coach this hockey game and go wherever's next for him. And it will be interesting to see what is next for him because there's a couple of options that you could see him potentially landing at this year even.
Yeah.
Both that I could see in Ontario.
yeah, he won't be out of work for long. He is such a good coach that, he'll be back in the league. I think you're right, before the end of the year. Yeah.
Tom Vernon, Quinn Phillips, Matt Iwanyk with here on the EST Hangout, presented by Mott's Clamato. That was Movers and Shakers, brought to you by Marco and Mike Realty. MarcoandMike.com for more information if you're looking to buy or sell your house. Or buy a house, sell your house. That's, I think, the better way of doing it. You don't want to buy and sell your own house. That's a little weird. Were you going to say something there?
No, well, I mean, I have a lot of things to say.
Okay,
but
well, we still got lots of time.
Yeah, exactly.
To get to this.
So
I will say to Chris Nobla, what is a weird situation here is that the guy next to him on the bench is also the advisor to the owner. That just seems like
how intimidating.
It just seems like, how do you feel like you could comfortably say whatever you feel like when you know that guy is going to be getting a call from the owner at some point going, hey, how are things going?
Yeah, what's it like in there?
Yeah.
How are they reacting to him? All that. Especially, like, imagine they lose the next two or something, right? It's just going to be full-blown panic. And I have to talk about Chris. Okay, so first of all, you guys, this is a throwback to Quinn in high school. So he played for the Edmonton Ice at the Agricom. My friend was dating another guy on the team, and I had the biggest crush on Chris Knobloch. So it's actually really funny that we're now talking about this. But talk about like and I know that you have to be prepared for this as a coach, but I don't know. I know that Oilers fans have been very upset and angry about a lot of things. I don't know if they've been this upset in a while about a coaching change and then, of course, who was hired. And imagine, this is like your shot. You're coming to Edmonton. You're getting an NHL chance. You have the two best players in the world. And it's a snake pit. Yeah. And you're coming in and there's absolutely zero celebration. There's no celebration.
No.
That dead energy press conference.
There's only one other time I've seen this in sports. I actually was the Lakers when they hired Frank Vogel. There was a lot of conversation about how big of a mess it was. I think at the time Magic Johnson resigned. And a couple coaches passed on them, and it was that same feeling watching that press conference. It was just a lot of anger at management and ownership, while Frank Vogel's sitting there going, "Hey, I'm the new coach of this team." Worked out for the Lakers. He won the championship with them.
Yeah.
So maybe that works for the Oilers. But it is a weird
and it's just like you can't help but I know this is ridiculous, but like he just looks like a wholesome, nice guy, like he's got a sadness to his eyes and but like a softness to his eyes. I'm gonna really break down the human appearance
Wait till he's
here,
done coaching
okay?
this team, the sadness in his eyes. Yeah.
There's just utter despair, devastation.
Oh my gosh. And so you can't help but look at him and just have the deepest sympathy for him, because what an exciting moment for him, despite the history. I mean, we're talking coach killers, and I've said this before. I said this to Manny Viveros when Jay Woodcroft took this job. I said, why would Jay want to come here and take this job knowing what this organization does to coaches? And Manny said, because it's a chance, and you don't get those chances in the NHL, so you got to take it, right? And so, of course, and every coach is not coming in being like, well, this is not going to work. Every coach is coming in and being like, I'm going to be the guy, right? But what an unceremonious welcome for a man who's getting the biggest opportunity of his life and coming back to a city he knows. He played here for a number of years, went to university here.
He's got the best player in the world here.
He's got the best player in the world here.
Should be some
second
and then
or one of the top players in the world and the
top
next
3,
guy,
4,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's the same as how did the Cleveland Browns always get new head coaches? Because there's only 30 of them.
Only 30 of them, yeah.
Or 32 in the NFL. And if you get that shot, you take that shot. And here's the thing. But what surprises me about the Oilers, too, on this one is I know why the only way you get Chris Knoblauch is to give him a head coaching job full-time because he's coming from a job with Hartford. But to not go with an interim tag here, right? Like finding a coach is not an interim because what if they miss the playoffs this year still? What if his record, they don't turn this thing around and they are only, they only play 400, 500 hockey the rest of the way? You're locked in for 2 more years with this guy?
Oh yeah, well, I mean,
you're going to roll over going
for
into the
2 more years.
Right.
I said this in the nasty chat yesterday, but it was blowing up too much. You don't need the interim tag. When you come to Edmonton, it's an interim job.
And does he come? I mean,
he's not coming without that.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, like it's the interim. That's the guy. That's that's Gulletson. Okay, you're interim, right? It's to bring him from another organization over. I don't know. Like maybe it's in contract. No, you have to hire him full time. You can't have the interim tag. I can't speak to that. But it's just I don't know if you come for interim. You get 5 months to clean up this, and if you don't,
and you've got to win. 44 of your remaining 69.
Yeah, you got to basically have a Jay Woodcroft winning percentage.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the weird part of all this. What Jay's winning percentage was with the Oilers is what this next coach's needs.
And you have no wiggle room. You have no wiggle room. You can't have a slump as a first-time NHL head coach.
Yeah.
You got to come in and you've got to...
And that's why I'm stunned that they went with such inexperience on this bench. That they went with a guy who's not an NHL head coach yet. And look, Dusty's pointed out yesterday, he's a guy that was passed over twice by the Rangers. The team he was the American Hockey League coach of, he was passed over twice for their head coaching job. That's usually your organization knows best whether that guy should be the head coach or not, and they've passed on him. Just like the Oilers brought up Jay Woodcroft at one point and put him in charge. Yeah. The Rangers passed twice. So now he comes in to try to turn this team around with an assistant that, while is a Hall of Famer, no question about it, has never coached, was the Bakersfield Condors player development a few years ago, but really didn't do anything. That's your coaching staff with Glenn Gulletson and Dustin Schwartz still here. And that's to turn this season around somehow. And the head coach is Connor McDavid's junior head coach and Paul Coffey's the owner's advisor type thing. Like watching that press conference yesterday, it just seemed like dysfunction is completely back with this organization. When Ken Holland took over, I would have to say that over the last couple of years, while people could agree and disagree on the moves Ken Holland made with this team, it looked like the dysfunction of this organization finally was going away. That we couldn't sit here and say hockey ops, wow, what a mess inside that front office. After yesterday, it seems like it's back.
Okay, so do you want to know what this reminded me of big time? And there was not nearly as many fumbles, and I can't remember what the move was. It might have been hiring Mac T as head coach. And Kevin Lowe came in and tiered the fans. We've got tier 1 fans, we've got tier 2 fans, and then said, I think I know a little bit something about winning.
It wasn't when
that press conference.
Yeah, that was like in 07. That was when things started to nosedive after the 06 Cup run. So it was like 07, 08. And it was
the winning.
But they had
I know
to
a thing
have
or two winning, and then he had the video about the tier fans.
Yeah. I was in Regina at that point.
And the thing is, I was at that press. No, I wasn't. Maybe I can't remember. And I just remember the reason that like this stands out to me so much is because I was working in PR at the time, and then I'm working in PR again, and there seemed to be no sense from the organization that media was going to come in and be very upset that you've once again hired somebody from the old boys club. That's why I feel like it's somebody like that. They didn't make, and so they had hired like the old boys club. Things just like weren't changing, and they had no pulse on like what media was going to come in and say. And so then you saw that with them being so unprepared and Kevin Lowe getting super defensive. And I this was not at that level, but it wasn't not on its way there with the like Ken saying I talked to them, and Jeff saying I didn't talk to them, and Paul Coffey saying no, I didn't want this job. Like there's like things coming out of this once again that is going to be held against them because they might have been wildly unprepared for what the vibe was going to be in the room.
They couldn't have been.
I don't know.
They honestly
why weren't they
couldn't
prepared?
have been.
Why? Like, here's the thing.
Not
I know
on this one.
when
Wasn't
you
there
work in
consistent
PR,
story? Yeah.
you give them potential questions.
Yeah.
You give them what the potential questions are going to be, and then you give them what their answers need to be. And yes, you have to count on the human to do it. But
The one issue with that is Ken likes talking.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Ken
he
loves to talk.
Yeah.
And so he may have had a script, but he likes to talk, and he easily could go off of that script very quickly. That's the only thing I'll say that maybe that's why. Like, he had to have a
100%.
talking to afterwards about why did you say that about the veteran players?
No, I don't think he did.
You don't think anyone talked to him and said you shouldn't have said that
No,
afterwards?
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Okay.
So I'm curious okay, you've made the coaching change.
Yes.
Is there another shoe to drop here? Like, I know, like, he's obviously working the phones trying to find a solution of some sort. But this roster as it's constructed right now doesn't appear to be working.
How is it not though? It's just a little mentally broken. I think they're incredibly unconfident right now and
I get
completely
that,
broken.
but last year at their worst times, they were outscoring their troubles. And that is not a sustainable way to win a Stanley Cup because you're not going to outscore your troubles through 4 rounds in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They brought in Ekholm, and they were awesome defensively through the last 2 months of the season.
Yeah.
But that's a short window to see. Are we now back to this is who they are? They have to outscore their troubles, and they had a hot run. Is this coaching staff going to get them back to maybe what they were for those last couple months of the season, or is there another defenseman being brought in? Like, is it like I know all the conversations around find a goalie. It's hard to find a goalie.
Absolutely,
right? It's hard to find a goalie. So is there someone? And I mean, I like Cody Ceci as a defenseman, but should he be paired with Darnell Nurse up there? Is he better suited that third pair or something like that? Is there someone else that they can bring in? Now that's an expensive fix to find someone that can play higher up in that top 4D, and you have to give something up, and they've got no cap wiggle room. Like it's a big problem. But having another solid presence on the back end, I think would help solve a lot of issues on this team and kind of drop everyone down. I love Vinny Desharnais, but is he at this point in his career? But I say I love him in that like love the story, love who he is, love the idea of him, love the idea of him. But for a team that the goal this year was to win the Stanley Cup, is he your 6th or 7th defenseman? Now the 6th defenseman, right? So that's where if you calm down the defense, you're not giving up 10 grade A chances a game, and your goalies maybe have a chance to find their game. These goalies haven't had a chance to find their game in a lot of those games, right? Yeah, they've given up a couple of bad goals, but they've also, you can't stop the one where you've got a wide open guy 2 feet from the net and you have no chance to get there.
The San Jose game,
right?
you saw Skinner even point to, I can't remember who it was, and just cover this guy, and he ends up scoring from right in front of the net. Do
you solve some of the goaltending by figuring out something on defense?
Well, team defense is important.
It's I don't know what that move is. And
okay, here's the thing about the move too that I'll throw up there. Going into this year, you would say the first round pick's up for grabs to fix this, to make a move at the deadline.
No.
Can you trade that first round pick?
Did
they lose an asset with the first round pick?
Yeah.
Like, I think the only way you could truly trade that first is if you're getting a goalie.
Yeah.
But to make that move for defense, are you willing to risk?
Yeah.
Because if you lottery protect it, well, it loses the value all of a sudden. It doesn't have as important as the team right now going, the Oilers' first round pick. That might be pretty good for us.
That might be a pretty good pick. And to get a goalie upgrade.
Are you willing to trade that?
Yeah.
I'll throw that out there to everyone listening. 780-218-9999 is how you can get in touch with us. You can jump in the nasty chat. Would you trade that first round pick if you're, I don't know, Jeff Jackson, Ken Holland, Paul Call, I don't know who's making decisions again. The Oilers group. Did they just lose potentially a little bit of an asset to improve this team because you're too scared to move it? Because if this season doesn't turn around, you're going to want that
first
pick. Or you're going to want to move it at the draft to maybe get a different player or change the makeup of your team.
Yeah. I'd move it in January if I saw some signs of life in this team.
Yeah.
Right now, no. I don't trade that first round pick right now thinking it would bring in a goalie we think would solve it if the defense is still the way it is, right? So I'll go back to like, who would have thought?
But what if that's the help that they need right now?
And that's where, like,
oh
yeah,
god,
Like if you're the Preds aren't moving him by all
Signs of
accounts,
life.
but if
Yeah.
Saros is there,
Sure.
I'm going to sit there and say, yeah, you make
Yeah,
that move.
you
You,
make
take
that
that
move.
chance.
Yes.
You're bringing
Yeah.
the Saros 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But are you going to
Yeah.
make that move for taking a chance on another goalie? Like, or are you going to make that move for bringing in some defenseman out there where if it doesn't work, you've lost a top 10, top 5
Yeah.
pick this year?
That's why, like, I know this was a roster during the captain skates through the preseason in game one. It was thought, yeah, playoffs are where it's at, right? So let's get me to January. Show me that this roster could actually make it to place, because the way they're playing right now, they're not one player away. The way they're playing right now, show me that this team can actually become one player away by January, by the Dwayne Rollison acquired window, right? That was January. Then
That was
okay.
March.
Was it?
He
I
was
thought
he
it
was the
earlier.
dare. No, so that year, Pronger, Pekka in the summer.
Oh, you're right, it was March. It was during the
Tarnstrom,
baseball.
Spacek in January, and then it was Samsonov and Rollison at the deadline.
You're right. Yeah.
Oh,
Kevin
the
Lowe did a
magic
kind of
here.
great year that year.
Oh, it was amazing.
As a GM, he was amazing as a GM that season.
But like the
Yeah.
goaltending this year has basically been Conklin Markkinen, right? We're kind of having that conversation. We don't have a goalie.
One and
So-
Campbell, he's down to Bakersfield to try to find his game,
still can't
it's
stop
not
a
going
puck.
well right now. And
No.
that's like
No,
I
it's
feel so
worse.
bad for
Yeah.
the guy.
Oh, you feel so bad
yeah.
for the human being,
Yes.
right? And I mean, yeah, I'm a heady person. I was always a heady athlete. I didn't have the sports psychology support that they would have now. I have so much sympathy for him because I understand what is going on inside of that noodle. You know, like there's a lot happening there, and there's a lot of pressure because. This isn't just me at a swim meet like trying to make a national qualifying time. Like this is like a guy trying to like be worth the money
Yeah.
and get back to an NHL status, and whew,
Yeah. It's not
whew,
there.
don't want to be inside that noggin.
Yeah.
A couple comments into the nasty chat. Jenna saying, I would trade the first, but would not trust Holland to do it. Which makes things just so interesting with this team. Because again, so is he the scapegoat? Is he not? The organization's just a mess. And Eric saying there's no trade out there right now that's worth what the Oilers would have to give up. We need to find a way for another 4 to 6 weeks, which would take you to January, just like you're saying.
Get me through. Like,
Like,
show
can
me,
you can
show
this
me
team
signs
get
of
to
life.
500
Yeah.
at that
And
point?
right now, realistically, I mean, yes, a lot can happen. Realistically, right now, they're not making the playoffs. They got to win 44 of 69.
Yeah.
Like, probably, right?
Well, the only way I could see them making the playoffs still, and where I'll have the optimism that they will, because this their January or December January slump that they're doing. What they're doing at the start of the
Started
year,
early, yeah.
and then the rest of the year they're going to play well, which should be enough to make the playoffs. Then
Yeah.
they just can't afford another slump.
No.
like not even like a 4-game slump or
this-
something.
yeah, this
they
is
have to
it.
be winning like
Well, it was-
3 out of every 4 or 5 games, basically the rest of the season. If they're going to make, and like you look at the standings, I think we could almost feel like the Pacific Division's out of the question. It's wild card.
Oh,
because
Yeah, and the Central
you
isn't
look
exactly
at the
blowing.
Pacific.
Yeah.
You've got the Golden Knights at 25 points, the Canucks at 23 points, the Kings at 19 points, the Oilers are at 7.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, the Kings are attainable.
you think at 19?
I mean, crazier
With Todd
things have
McFarlane
happened.
as the coach, he's not going to.
Oh, that was the other firing that had me more upset about like
McFarlane?
the human. Yeah, because it was Peter Chiarelli firing him. He should not have had that opportunity to fire him. He should not have been in that seat.
Yeah.
He should not have had.
Why not? That wasn't like, because that was before the bad trades that came. That was before the Manning trade. That was before the.
Spooner?
There was other bad trades, though.
Potentially, because they just made the playoffs the year prior, did they not? Or am I missing that? Or
No,
was it
you're
2 years
missing
later?
a year because
I'm
they
missing the
made
full-
they made it in 17,
16, 17,
and then
yeah.
18 was terrible, and then it was so 17, 18 they missed. It was 18, 19 he was fired.
You're right.
Chiarelli.
You're
and,
right.
But, and that was where he was making
Yes,
those trades
you're
where it
right.
was like,
And then, yeah.
Strong for
Okay,
Spooner.
no, sorry.
There's
never mind.
no
I
reason
thought I was
that
first forgetting it was the year
Chiarelli
after.
should have been in that chair making that decision, and like again, just like a good person losing their job in such an awful way, like sending him to the airport and
What do you think Todd texted Jay yesterday?
Welcome
Welcome to the club. We're like,
All
all right,
right,
you guys
all
want
right.
to talk about this? Like,
Well, yeah.
I want that chat. I want to be a part of
It
that
gets
conversation.
better, right?
So,
Like, it's-
so
there's-
yeah, like
yeah.
promise, man.
Yeah.
So the first one is
Congrats.
The
Yeah.
first one
You're
is
better place.
At least you were already home.
yeah.
You didn't have to take a flight by yourself and get photos taken of you
Yeah.
like in the airport. You got home at least. So that's probably the first one.
Yeah.
Because they're just comparing like battle wounds. Like it's just like, yeah, but this happened to me. Yeah, but this happened to me.
I want to go back to that one comment, sorry, in the nasty chat.
for it.
I don't trust Holland to trade that
Yeah.
first round. And that goes back to that, what's the long-term plan here?
Yeah.
If there's not a GM in place, you're going to have an entire fan base and a media base going, who is making the decisions on trying to pull this team out of it? And is that, look, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, they're going to get all those questions today. And in a team where let's turn this around and come together and start winning games, is that the environment that they're going to be able to do that in, where they have an entire fan base, an entire media base, wanting to know the answers from them on what do you feel about what's going on up here, as opposed to what's going on the ice.
And that's why it's just like, I always just let us in. Let us see how the decision is. Like, you are better off being far more transparent.
Yeah. Show us a plan.
Whether you it's like let people in, let people understand, and then the questions go away.
That's where I was a little unimpressed with Jeff Jackson yesterday, because really that's his first real press conference with the Oilers. His introductory press conference, that's always easy. That's always loving. That's always, unless
fluff,
you're Chris Knoblaw, when you get hired, it's usually really great.
Yeah.
But yesterday, like, who makes the decision? Well, we all make the decision. Like, no, okay, tell us.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're like, so when that comes, like, who's making this call now? Are you going to be overlooking and vetoing Ken Holland's trades moving forward the rest of this way? Are you initiating trades? Just let us know kind of the structure of this.
Yeah.
And who's in the room? Who's we?
Yeah.
Is it just the two of us? Is there, who else is involved? Like, who's
Is it
in
Paul
the
Coffey,
room?
which means by extension, Daryl Cates is in the room? Is it Brad Holland? Is it Keith? Yeah,
just let us in a little, and then it goes away.
Yeah.
Again, this,
Build that trust with your audience.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Then you could focus on what actually matters.
Yeah.
Which is pulling this season out of the gutter, re-signing Leon Draisaitl, and then getting to a point where Connor McDavid wants to re-sign. And I don't think just hiring all these people in Connor McDavid's orbit is what's going to cause him to want to re-sign. It's going to be, there's a long-term, clear vision, and I can actually win here. And it's not every 3 years we go like this and we nosedive, right? Like, it's just.
I was really mad at Connor yesterday. I've cooled. Because it's just like you just spin, right? Like yesterday I was just spinning like, are we really doing this? Like, we're really bringing in his junior coach, and it's just like, I forget that Jeff has ties to him, whatnot, right? I would die to know what's going on in his head right now. Like, is he embarrassed that this is all happening? Like, that it's all like these people in his sphere. Is he thrilled?
Yeah.
Oh, I take the mindset, if it looks like a duck and it sounds like a duck, it's a duck. And it seems like he's involved in this to me. So you'd have to be thrilled. He's running the Edmonton Oilers in a way, in my mind. He has that much say. And like, because like, look, how many coaches has he gone through? If this was LeBron James, we would be destroying LeBron. And LeBron has been destroyed for things like this. This isn't a coincidence now to me. When there's all these moves that are happening and Connor McDavid's here.
That's it. Like, that's a
he's been
bold
involved.
play.
Absolutely. And I also don't think then he can never really leave this, because he's designed this.
Oh, he will.
He's not going to get the chance to run another franchise.
Well, how is it going with him running a franchise?
By the way, the Edmonton Oilers, they are on the ice. So they will speak to the media, or the media will speak to the players in a bit. New lines.
This is
here we
okay.
go.
Like, also, like, let's just talk about how wild of like a pregame. Like, usually there's just like so few storylines. You're kind of like just straight. Like, I mean, not so few. There's a lot of storylines right now, but like, this is gonna be an intense pregame.
Yep.
Locker room sesh here with media.
So, as Ryan Rishaug points out, the Oilers won their last game with McDavid and Draisaitl put together. Knobla has separated them. So he's not going with the status quo. According to Bob Stauffer, McDavid in between Nugent-Hopkins and Gagne on the top line. Draisaitl centering Kane and Hyman. McLeod in between Holloway and Fogle. Hamblin centering Lavoie and Ryan. And then Brown is an extra skater. Nurse with CC. Ekholm with Bouchard. Kulak with Desharnais. And it looks like Stuart Skinner will be getting the start. A credit to Knobloch for not sticking to the status quo. The one thing I will say, though, because we've seen it with every coach, including Jay, how soon till he puts
soon?
McDavid and Draisaitl together if things aren't going well?
I mean, I love Sam Gagner.
Yeah, what a
But if he is on your top line, and he's played great, right? And you got to throw someone there. But he's there just for that part okay, things aren't going. Gagner, you come down. Draisaitl, you go up. And I mean, I don't know where else you put him. But look, I'm a firm believer in you keep McDavid and Draisaitl apart because that just makes your team better overall.
yeah.
It's hard to match up when they're on separate
exactly.
lines.
But-
Your top line can only be out there so much. Or top pairing can only be out so much against them.
So we have an old coworker, Freddie, and he just like his Sam Gagner. He's so I think his favorite player of all time is Todd Marchand. So he just any other player that's not the biggest player, I think he's just like, do not take Todd's glory. So I can just see him seething right now that Sam Gagner
he'll
is
be
playing
mad
up
at
with
Sam.
McDavid right now.
Got it.
But
Got it.
I mean, you listen to those lines, fine. That's a good lineup. That's fine. McDavid, Nuge, yada yada yada. But they had the offseason to figure out that right wing spot. And it appears Sam Gagner is the solution on that right wing spot.
The guy who was here on a PTO.
Right? And it's just...
Well, I will
Yeah.
defend it a little bit because I think you just kind of get that like big heart, hardworking, like go get the puck.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But if Sam Gagner was that top line right winger against the Vegas Golden Knights in the second round of the playoffs in the spring, like that hasn't.
He can't be the
solved
long-term
it,
solution.
right? And what's
Like,
the long-term solution there? And it was supposed to be Conor Brown, and maybe it will still be.
Well,
But it's just,
can you have Conor Brown play another game
and that's
with his
the way it's
contract, with
structured?
his
Yeah.
contract with bonuses for next year? Can you honestly
Yeah.
afford, as this organization who has cap issues, which, as Ken Holland said, Jay Woodcroft couldn't hold his players accountable because he didn't have the raw players there, which was Ken Holland's fault, which was just the wonderful part of that press conference yesterday too.
So you just
The
sit down.
fumbles
The
again.
cap,
yeah.
like, do you not just have to put him on waivers and send him down so you don't have that penalty next
Yeah.
year?
And will they have a Jack Campbell penalty to think about next year as well, right? With the
the
buyouts.
buyouts and-
yeah, right.
And like, because as long as Conor Brown's also around the Oilers, at some point the PA is going to go, why isn't he playing?
Yeah.
Unless, like, you have to waive him and send him, be like, he just wasn't good enough. But if he's healthy and around this team, the PA is going to eventually get involved and be the reason he hasn't played that next game is for the contract.
Yeah.
He needs to start playing. There's going to be some issues. So I don't know how we could still be around this organization right now, just up here.
Could that be the play to show that no, Connor isn't calling all the shots, to send him down to the? I know we've got Jeff, and I know we've got his coach from junior, but we sent his friend down. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
For the best, for the betterment of the franchise. Like, I don't think anyone right now could look at Conor Brown and say he's helped the Oilers this year, that he needs to stay here, and that the cap next year is worth keeping Conor Brown this year.
How many games is he at?
I think 9.
He's at 9.
I think he's one more.
One more. Yeah.
One more, and you have that penalty next year.
Yeah.
And, like, I know that sucks for Conor Brown. I know that's not a good look necessarily.
Yeah.
But for this franchise, just like you maybe can't trade your first necessarily right now, you might not be able to play Conor Brown on that. You know, maybe you send him down, and if you're back to 500 in January, you give him the shot again.
Yeah,
because,
there you
okay, this team is picking up. Maybe he can help this team right now. But when you're in the position that you are as the Edmonton Oilers in the standings, and you're looking at next year, you go, was it $3 million or whatever?
Yeah.
You can't afford that.
Well, this is the closest you can get to like non-guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't feel bad for him. The NHL needs more, like less guaranteed money. So
Although you
Guaranteed
don't ever want to go to
contracts.
NFL standard where
Yeah.
there are like players come and go so easily.
I
Yeah.
like it the way it is. It punishes bad moves. I like
Yes.
it. Right. It's just
NHL GMs are the worst for
right.
it.
Yeah, okay.
And,
Like
but,
the
but
amount
all
of
the other
no
leagues have
trade
outs. All
and
the
no
other leagues
move.
have outs.
Yeah, but no trade, no move clause.
Yeah.
The NHL hands them out like candy.
Yeah.
In the NBA, at least for a while, at one point there was like only Kobe Bryant had a no move
Yeah.
clause. They didn't hand those out that much.
No.
And just the NHL, I remember Georges Laraque got one, I think, when he went to Pittsburgh. And I love Georges. He's a great player. He's
Yeah.
not worthy of a no trade
oh
clause.
my
Yeah.
lord.
Yeah.
Like you're not sitting there going, "This is a guy. Well, we can't trade him." You know,
Yeah.
like no, you could afford to not sign him if you don't give him the no trade clause. But hockey GMs just look through it.
Yeah. Just throw it in. Yeah.
Yeah, talk about creating a monster, hey?
Yeah.
Like, and now the players just completely dictate. Yeah. I've never really thought that deeply about the no move clause until now, but yeah.
It's been a big problem because it's also one in hockey. The Pandora box opened, and it was, if I don't give him the no trade, no move clause, some other GM will. So do I want this player or not? So I guess I'll give it to you. You look at the Oilers, if they really wanted to change the makeup of their core right now, if they went, you want to know something? We're going to make a big move.
Let's go.
To fix this team. Here's the players that can't be moved right now. By the way, Tom Vernon, Quinn Phillips, Matt Iwanyk with you here on the EST Angle, presented by Mott's Clamato. So you're not trading Connor, you're not trading Leon. I'm just going to throw those guys out there. Zach Hyman has a no-move clause. Evander Kane has a no-move clause. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has a no-move clause. Darnell Nurse has a no-move clause. So how many pieces did the Edmonton Oilers really have if they wanted to shake up the core at this moment to make a trade?
Yeah.
Like you're looking at forward-wise, you got Warren Fogle, Ryan McLeod, Matthias Janmark, Dylan Holloway, really.
Yeah.
Defensively, you've got Ekholm or you got Bouchard, really.
Yeah, and you're not trading Ekholm.
No.
And
so, because of these no move and no trade clauses, why is Jay Milne here?
Glue guy can't
EST
stay
glue
away.
guy is here. He heard Quinn's here and he had to come in. But it's just one of those you couldn't even, because they handed out so many of those, and now rightfully so to some of those guys. But you can't move Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, if you will. Now he deserved one in my mind.
Yeah,
because of
and you're not moving him, right? Because then it's just they're stuck. And so when we say, well, can they do something with the goaltending or can they find that defenseman? I don't know. There you go. There's no pieces to move unless it's that first round pick. And right now, that first round pick is, they're not one player away from that first round pick unless they show us in January. Don't keep banging that drum. Unless they show that they can turn this around. So if they come out and play a good game tonight and actually win, they don't do what they did in Philly after they beat Nashville.
Yeah, first time winning back-to-back games this season.
They don't, like, Dallas, okay, you lost against Dallas, but then they lost to San Jose, right? Like, they've not shown that they're one player away.
All right, but let's go flip side. I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here. You make that trade, and you're showing this team that is really lacking confidence right now that you have confidence in them, and we're going to do this.
I appreciate, and I know confidence plays a role, but I really feel it's an overstated role. If you can't play defensive structure, I don't care how confident you are, that's not confidence. Giving up all these grade A chances in your own end. But I think that
they're making mistakes because they're like overthinking, and there's a real panic involved there, and
that's a big risk to give up that first round pick. And if it doesn't work, if it goes sideways, when Colorado had that really bad year, who did they end up drafting fourth?
Cale Makar,
right? I mean, do you trade this pick? Like maybe this is just this happens. And
in the next few weeks, if they trade this pick, it has to be lottery protected. The problem is then you all of a sudden lose some of the value that pick has with teams, because they're going, well, if it's lottery protected, I might not get a pick this year. It'll be the next year.
Yeah,
I'll fully admit it. Like, how's the draft class for this year?
This is where we're at. I actually looked it up.
Did you? Oh, okay.
Wow, this I got some of the notes.
Because I was like, I mean, are we talking about like a good draft class, or are we talking about the year that like CC and
who's up there.
like was taken? And
I don't think it matters.
Fell off.
Yeah. I don't think it matters because at the draft, at the very least, you could trade it for a player at that point.
Yeah.
You have more options, I think, at that point if you were trying to move it. But you can't give up without knowing what pick you have. Because if it's the number one overall pick, okay, it depends on the class that you're going to get, but it's still a number one overall pick. There's a cachet to that. That brings an extra value to it. So you can't trade it right now when it might be the number one overall pick, but it might be the 10th overall pick. And it doesn't matter if the draft is bad or not, because the first is a first.
But right now, what we're saying, if it's a starting goalie, none of us are mad. None of us are mad.
Well, legit starting goalie.
Legit.
Yeah, like a legit starting goalie.
Yeah.
None of us are mad.
Because you would think that goalie, even if it's not this year, that's the Stanley Cup winning goalie of this franchise.
So
I've made the personal decision right now to stand by my opinion, and I think it's showing the guys we believe in you.
Yeah.
Because I really think that they're struggling with confidence.
But the problem with this team is, okay, trade the first round pick. But what's going out with it? They've got so let's bring in that legit goalie. A legit goalie's not going to come in at $750,000. So Stuart Skinner would have to go the other way.
Because it's not Jack Campbell.
What's there? That's $3 million. What does he make this? Is it even that much? 275. Like it's not.
Get that page open.
It's not a big number.
Yes, Quinn.
But if you're getting a legit goalie, let's talk about
he's 2.6.
2.6. Yeah. So what does UC Saros make? He's probably a 5-6 guy, right?
Yeah.
So okay, first round pick, Skinner. We still got to find $3.5 million because they just don't have it. they have so little. Like, what are they going to play with 18 players? Like it's just.
The flip side to this also too is how many teams are ready to move on from a player.
Yeah.
That the Oilers can then go grab that player to bring him in at this moment.
At this point,
right?
yeah.
Like it's so early in the season. The Oilers are that team at the bottom. Not a lot of other teams are going, our season's done at this point. The Oilers could come and grab whatever player we want. Here's the list. Pick who you want. There's not, those players aren't there. Those teams aren't there. And really, is there anyone on the Sharks the Oilers could use? Like, that's the team you're looking at if you're really looking at a team that doesn't care about the season.
Reimer. Like, that's the thing. Like, you're looking at that level of goalie. And that's
not a first.
No.
That's not a first
but
at
that's
all.
Like, but that's, so when we're talking about goalie solutions, they don't have the money to get that big fish unless there's some sort of magical, they've traded Fogle for a Fogle that is $1.2 million and they've traded, right? Like, they're kind of downgrading elsewhere. So I think the goalie solution is, if they don't turn it around, it's, well, Jaro Halak's out there, might come in at league minimum, and you take a swing at that, like something like that. I think that's the goalie solution. Whereas on defense,
Why are we talking about a goalie solution when we had all off season? But anyways,
right? But
because Skinner played well last regular season,
But
and they were
I-
locked in
and
on
he
cap.
shouldn't have dropped this far off.
Yeah.
And Jack Campbell, when you think of it, like his year was bad last year. You aren't like. How often are they that bad?
Goalies can always rebound. They're
And there's
weird
a little bit
characters,
of,
right?
but like even like
totally.
you didn't even need much of a rebound from Jack Campbell. He was an
But-
890 whatever save percentage.
Yeah.
You needed to get to 905.
Yeah.
And that's an improvement.
I guess so, but
And they
then
didn't
also
get any of that.
Stuart Skinner wasn't good enough in the playoffs.
Yes.
And that's what this is about.
And
And so
Campbell
you
was.
went into the whole offseason being like, yeah, he had a good regular season, but he showed that he's not ready
Yep.
to carry the load in the playoffs. So I stand by that. I don't know why this is coming up in the regular season now.
Because they were stuck. Because they had $8 million in goalies, and what were you going to do? No one was taking Jack Campbell in the
100%,
offseason,
but
and
like
you
make
weren't
an
trading
effort.
Skinner.
I don't know.
But the thing is with Skinner is that you would have hoped, and this is where I'll defend management on that one, is that he's a young goalie. It's development. And he didn't have the great playoffs.
But you're in
he's
cup
going
or
to
bust.
develop and get better there.
But you're in cup or bust.
Well, that's
and
then
you're
goes
like,
back to signing Jack
and
Campbell.
You're, fair. That's fine. But
Which, to me, again...
buy him out. Then buy him out this year, this
I hate
offseason.
buyouts.
Yeah, I looked at the numbers. It's not awful, but it's 6 years, right?
That's the issue. I
It's the
hate
6 years.
paying for
Isn't
someone.
it like
yeah.
1.5
I would-
for 6?
1.5 and
You
then
have
2.6.
to me. You got to
and
find a
it's
way
not
to trade him,
but
and with something so he's only on your books for salary retained for 3 more years or whatever, 2 more years. I hate the dead money. This team's keeps having too much
There's
of it.
a lot of dead
There's
money,
still who's still on
There's
the books right now.
still-
One more player is still on the books. It's not Lucic.
It's Neal.
James Neal for 2 more seasons.
years.
Like
2 more.
he's got 2 more, just under $2 million. Like that's the thing. I just when you have these buyouts, then
LOL to Calgary winning that trade in the end. Like everybody was like, I don't know, man.
we got an all-timer goal song out of James Neal, though. Come on, like that one.
and he had a
is-
great first year
yeah.
with this team.
He did.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Did Lucic really do that great?
No, it's not that he did great, but like at least that's
not on
just
the
like
books
off the
anymore.
books now, and like you know what I mean.
But
Like
he let
in the
but
end,
he was an anchor on that team for right, and just whatever.
Oilers beat them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Oilers win.
So, but that goes back to the goalie. The big solve won't be the goalie this year. That's why it's that another defenseman, and there are maybe some pieces you can move around to try and figure that out. Is it like I know they don't have a lot of value, but like a CC or like those guys, where can you try and turn that into something with a prospect, and you can improve your defense, and just hope your goaltending figures it out. Because I don't know how trading Skinner, but his salary's just not to the point where you're gonna
You gotta throw
you
extra.
got to throw more in there, and you just gave the list, and so you're sending Skinner out. Well, now you got to send more money out. Well, now you're sending Fogle out. Well, he's probably been their not best player this year, but most consistent player this year.
Which, no disrespect to Warren Fogle, but we shouldn't be saying he's been
No.
their best, like one of their best players or the most consistent player this season.
Yeah.
That just tells you how bad everyone else has
Right,
been
and
this
it's
season.
so that's why I think that the fix is on defense, and maybe you can turn one of your current defensemen into an upgrade by you package someone else with it, and I think that's the only way you can make an improvement right now that would actually make a difference.
Can we also just talk about goalie development in general? Because like it is the hardest thing in the world lately to find starting goalies, and like what has happened? Where are we at?
Well, Henrik
Why are we
Lundqvist
not
is going, like this is part of it too. Henrik Lundqvist is going to Hall of Fame. He never won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, Carey Price in Montreal is one of the better goalies we've seen in the last decade. He didn't win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so difficult to figure this out.
yeah.
But, you know, there is Shesterkin and with the Rangers, who's unbelievable. There's Vasilevsky in Tampa, and you always wonder, how come the Oilers can't find someone?
There's so many teams though that like this isn't just an Oilers problem.
No.
There's so many teams
Let's
that can't
talk about
find goalies. Like
Philadelphia, right?
it's
Like,
so
for
that
their
goes
it's
back
so
lifetime.
hard to
No.
do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And goaltending's changed in that how many goalies are out there that they're starting 65, 70 games anymore,
yeah.
right? So now you need 2 good goalies.
There's no Kipper anymore.
Right? So now it's like,
Yeah.
it's spread even thinner now where it's, yeah. And maybe Skinner looked
you know
good
what?
last year. And he
Parents,
was fine.
put your kid in a net.
Yes.
There's a real open door there for you. It'll be torture, but you never know. It could pay off real well.
My oldest, we signed her up for the first shift. I was at Rogers Place yesterday. I was like, man, they're going to be starting this down, so we're not going to be able to see it. But she
You didn't put the reporter cap on and try to sneak in to get
right?
your questions.
I said,
Tom Vernon.
text guys, go. You need me to see it? I do it with my phone, guys. I can get you to the inside. But Mark Fistrick was there, and he's like, okay, hold the stick. So, shoot this way, shoot this way. She goes, I feel more comfortable this way. I was like, oh, you're a righty. We'll put you on defense, Claire. Let's go.
I know where you belong.
Yeah, hold on. You're a really good skater. Skate backwards now. Let's go.
Oh my gosh. I wish it felt more comfortable that way. Yeah.
Me and Dusty were talking about this before the morning show today. Is this a very pivotal moment for the Oilers where either this is a moment we can look back to and it sent them on the right track back to winning a Stanley Cup, or it's going the complete opposite way and we're looking at just utter disaster for the next 4 years?
I just don't think it can be utter disaster. I just with the players, I mean, with the top 2 players that you do have Ekholm on defense.
And you have Hyman and Kane and Nuge locked up.
Yeah.
We always had to expect regression this year. Like Nuge wasn't going to do another 100 points this year.
No, there's a
And-
lot of career best.
We're
Right.
talking wasn't it
but-
2 years ago around Christmas they lost 14 of 15, and still went on to the
That's
conference
right.
final,
That
right?
was so
It's
bad.
just it's
Yeah.
wildly magnified right now.
They made a coaching change at that time too.
Yeah.
But
word.
They
Yeah,
also brought
okay.
in Evander Kane
Yeah.
that year.
Yeah. And that's not sitting out there right now.
There's no free agent of Evander Kane's
Yeah.
skill that's sitting right now for the Oilers to
Yeah.
go sign.
So the talent is there. The team is there, right? This is the same team that was a couple of bounces away in a couple of games to, at least maybe
Losing to the back-to-back Stanley Cup
Right,
champs, back-to-back
and-
years, challenged the Vegas Golden Knights better than
Right.
anyone else in the
That
playoffs
Vegas
last year
Golden
and
Knights
led
series.
every single game of that game,
Yep.
5-game series or whatever, 6-game series.
Yeah. So they were a couple bounces away from going through there. This was the opening night. I mean, look,
Don't tell me it was Kyler
I'll admit
Yamamoto that held this
this
thing
is all
together.
on me. I was in Vegas a few weeks ago, and I put $40 on the Oilers to win the cup.
It's Tom Vernon's fault,
Right?
people.
And my brother-in-law did. So I will burn it right here in front of everybody, and we can exercise the demons here. But
You want to know,
this
I
is-
think no one should ever predict the Oilers are going to be the Stanley Cup favorites going into the season again.
Never.
Because the last time this happened, Frank Saravalli did it, and I think Greg Wyshynski did it after 16-17. And look what happened. Never
Yes.
predict no matter how, they could win the cup
They
3
can't
straight
handle
years.
it.
Yeah.
Do not predict them the next year still to
Yeah.
be favorites because it seems like there's something in the water.
Yeah.
Well, and I also this is and we battled this for years, playing down to teams all the time, right? And so now they go in as one of the favorites again, and it's I'm sure they think they can just turn it on. I'm sure that there's a big piece of that is just well, when we have to, but it's you're in have to territory now, or. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about the mindset of this group. It just goes on it's for years of bad starts and what is it?
They just can't have a normal season.
No.
Right,
It's
just it was supposed to be an easy regular season.
Yeah.
We just sit back as fans
remember?
and media. Enjoy. I said I don't care about the regular season. Get me to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Get me to April.
That's
was
when
what matters.
That's when I was on the Hangout, and you said I just don't. Oh no, I was
doesn't matter.
watching. I was I don't even.
It doesn't matter.
I don't want to deal. I just want to be in the playoffs. Let's go. Well, now we're going to be in the battle of our lives.
Yeah.
Every single game is going to mean something. I just always go back to St. Louis when they won the cup, and I'm just that's my model right now.
So play
The
Calvin
Oilers
Pickard.
have to.
Yeah.
The Oilers
Yeah.
have to. That's the model.
So you got to start playing Calvin Pickard.
Yeah.
Because he's got to be the Jordan Binnington of this season. The AHL goalie comes up, starts playing, wins mock games. Play Calvin Pickard. I'm actually surprised he hasn't played yet.
Yeah. Is it like this? He'll get San Jose or Anaheim, you'd think, right? It's...
I would have thought
Yeah.
he would have got one of these already, but I guess
Yeah.
maybe not.
Is it like this in other markets? So, I mean,
Toronto.
we live here, and boy, the Oilers are... I mean, they're fun to watch. Let's say
Here in Toronto.
Toronto, it's right, but Pittsburgh. I mean, when things are diving, I mean, they've won a couple cups, so at least they've got that. But it's not been good the last couple of years, and they cleared out Hextall and Burke and all that. Is it like this there though? Where does it feel dysfunctional? And or is it just because we're in the belly of the beast here in the Canadian market? Like, is this
Vancouver felt dysfunctional? The Canucks felt pretty dysfunctional for a while.
Yeah.
Yes,
and I think that
but
but
they weren't supposed to win, right? They were.
I think the others have done it to themselves, where they do feel dysfunctional because it's the clip that's gone viral now on yesterday, which is Ken Holland saying, "I spoke to veterans last week about this." Immediately, like not even a few questions later, it was Jeff Jackson took the mic from Ken Holland there and went, "We didn't speak to anyone," and it's that right there that everyone can point to. That's dysfunction.
Yeah.
That you don't get from other organizations. Yeah. So I don't think you get that impact, especially Pittsburgh right now. Like it would be, they've redone it. Kyle Dubas, it's his team.
Yep.
But we know who's calling the shots in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
We don't know who's calling the shots here in Edmonton. Yeah. Who gets the final say? And I don't care that it's a management team or there's a group decision. Usually, even in that, there's one person that still has to say, yes, let's do it.
Yep.
And we don't know who that is. Yeah. It's all dysfunction, which is great.
Maybe they just run it like a jury and like they're just hung unless.
Or do they have to have like majority vote? There's like 5 of them and you have to have 3 votes. Majority passes. Resolution moves on. We can make this trade.
Yeah, that seems like super sustainable. Hey, could you imagine? Like, so then when the trade doesn't work out, the 2 guys were like, well, I told you so.
You 3.
And then it just turned, this one's on you guys. You better go up, do your press conference now.
So who's the swing vote, right? There's always going to be 2 on each side. Who's the one that bounces?
So we got Jeff Jackson for sure. We got Ken Holland. We got Paul Coffey. I guess maybe Keith Gretzky, Brad Holland. Is that our 5? Maybe, I think.
So it'd be
I got to take one of Connor McDavid's in there. Sorry.
So 6?
We need
an even number, though.
Leon Draisaitl jumps in, too. Leon gets a little bit of a vote. And there's our 7. The committee, they convene once in a while. They speak of the stories of the day. They take minutes.
He's the player rep.
They got 2 of them.
And he's got a larger share vote because he has more voices behind him. But
it is fascinating. Like, they really have to turn this thing around. Mm-hmm. Where
very
at least,
quickly.
like, even if they don't make the playoffs this year, let's say, it has to look like it's trending in the right direction. Yeah. Because I don't think you could start next hockey season with Leon Draisaitl on your roster without a contract extension.
No. So I want to ask the question because I am a season ticket holder.
Okay.
And
6:30 game tonight, by the way.
It wasn't very hard for a number of years here. Like, I went through a lot of years of having a hard time selling tickets. Mm-hmm. And then it was really easy. Mm-hmm. And it was easy going into this year. Tom, I didn't get you any tickets because I sold them all.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. I've got tickets. I've got half
should have had this conversation before. Yeah. But
awkward.
I want like the nasty chat, like everybody, like if you're a season ticket holder and they don't make the playoffs this year,
do you renew?
What are you doing next year? Are you renewing? I don't know because I feel like the fans get so upset and those tier 1 fans that pay a lot of money. I can't even say it. I'm sorry, everybody. But like it is really hard not to feel ripped off by this organization.
Well, you go and you spend a lot of money. They're not cheap.
That's exactly it,
And then if you want to
right?
go buy a single beverage or food item, it's not cheap. And when they make the playoffs, it's definitely not cheap at that point.
Yeah.
And there's never a give back to the season ticket holders, it seems. And like we could joke about what Kevin Lowe said, but that is a lot of money that does get spent by season ticket holders. And it's you look at last season actually. There was a lot of games that weren't sold out in the first half of that season. Now, they weren't by a lot. Like, we're not talking about 5,000 seats empty or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy to sell tickets last year either.
Until probably
the end of the year.
like the end of the season.
then,
when March came in, then it was always sold out and it moved on the rest of the way.
Yeah.
I'll say even just this year, if this trends, I think come February, you're going to start seeing non-sellouts again here at Edmonton.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then that might lead to next year people going, I don't think they have a season ticket register anymore. I don't think there's a waiting list anymore, or it's very small now.
Yeah,
yeah, and I understand the battle of that, right? Because it's just like you just keep being like, but Connor McDavid, but Leon Draisaitl, right? And you want to be in the building, and like how horrifying if you give up your tickets and then they go and win the Stanley Cup and you don't have those playoff tickets,
Yep.
so you never weren't in the building, but you were in the building through all of this. I get it. It is an impossible position to be in, but it just gets, if they don't make the playoffs this year after a Stanley Cup or bust, ouch.
Like, it's
what do
hard
I
to think
actually
that.
do?
Yeah.
Because then now you're talking about Leon and Connor leaving.
Yeah. And you can't.
That's the conversation moving forward.
Yeah. And I was talking with my brother yesterday, and he goes, well, but do you trade them? He's like, he's like, you can't. Like, I know you. Yeah.
I think you kind of have to trade Leon next year if he's not
Yeah.
going to sign a contract.
Yeah.
You can't allow him to leave in free agency for nothing.
Yeah.
Oh,
And you can't.
look.
You don't make that trade during a season. I don't think. Like that's.
So then it's
that's
an
why
off-season
this summer
thing,
is so
right?
important for the Oilers because,
Yeah.
like, if you lock up Leon, they're locking up Connor.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got to first lock up Leon because that's the first step in this. And
So if you trade Leon, Connor's not a lock anymore, right?
the only reason I would say he's a lock is he's making all these moves. It seems like I'll just go back to that part. But beyond that, if Leon walks or you trade him. Well, that's going to be a lot more difficult, I think, to sell to Connor that, you should stay here for another 8 more years or whatever it is. So, if that's why this is such an interesting time and to take this risk, going back to the coaching change of a rookie head coach again with a assistant for this season that hasn't coached in the National Hockey League, that's bold.
So most important season in franchise history is this one right here then. Really?
And that's partly why I go to,
Yeah.
is this yesterday? It's either sends them on the cup stretch or
Yeah.
it might send them complete dysfunction or something like that because could this lead to the fact that you do lose Leon and Connor? And then Connor, was it Connor? No, Dustin O in the chat says, I'll keep my season tickets until Connor leaves.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. The Oilers, as long as you have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, it is going to be easier to sell tickets for fans because they got the hope because in the end, you got Connor and Leon. But the moment that leaves, what do you have?
We go back to the hope days, right?
Lavoie. Raphael Lavoie.
Like, if things go really sideways, should they trade for Taylor Hall at the trade deadline so we get the first overall pick? And we just, right? Like, let's...
Free fall for Hall.
Get the luck of the number 1 overall pick coming here to
Bring the band back together, right?
Might as well just...
Where's Nail? Like, let's just get him back,
Get him
like
back.
circling in the dressing room, like just, putting out some
Where's
some
Steve
good
Tambellini's
energy.
tie that won them some picks?
Well, and then wasn't there socks too?
Was there something?
There was socks.
I think Nicholson had socks.
Yeah.
Yes. I think he has socks.
Some lucky socks.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to do a quick draft sim if I can. Just because you never know. Last time I did it last week, and the Oilers drafted second still. So let's do a quick
All right.
draft sim here because this is where we're at now. We got to do this every so, often.
I was reading that I can't remember the names or who they are. But there was
Oilers dropped 2 spots to 4th.
to 4th. Well, there's a defenseman
After
at 4th.
one win and a coaching change, they've made
Moving
the
up.
right move.
They've lost that. No, but that was after the sim. They lose. They drop. Ooh, it's not good.
There's a defenseman at number 4, I think. So, if I remember the draft rankings
Like a
correctly.
really good defenseman.
Like one that puts them over the top next year and they win the cup.
Is there a goalie that could possibly go in the first round?
Like, I don't want to lean too much on this
is
kid that's going to have the hopes of the world.
Oh, you've already done it, Tom. We don't know his name right now, but the Oilers are going to win the Stanley Cup next year because they're going to draft 4th overall and draft this defenseman, says Tom Vernon.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. If it doesn't happen, you can blame him.
He's pretty good. He plays with a stick. I'm not sure which hand, but I just remember there was a
Do you
defenseman
even
that was
remember what
top 4.
junior club he pays for?
Sorry, the top ones, it's a lot of
European?
the U.S. National Development. A lot of those players this year. Yeah. So,
Interesting.
yeah, it's a lot of those at the top.
This is the EST Hangout presented by Mott's Clamato Caesar, Tom Vernon, a Clearview Strategy, Quinn Phillips, Explore Edmonton, Matt Iwanyk with you here. Connor McDavid has spoke. I just lost the tweet. Oh, there it is. From Ryan Rashog, Connor McDavid on Chris Knobloch, quote, "It's been a really long time. Obviously, I thought he was a great in junior. I don't know much about what he's been up to other than he's been coaching, obviously, in the NHL as an assistant in the American League as a head coach. He's a young voice, which is great. I think it resonates with a lot of guys in this room. He's someone that I look forward to working with." So Connor McDavid, I guess, excited to work with Chris Knobloch. Knobloch, by all accounts, too, just following as much as I can on Twitter, as Quinn would say, X. Knoblaw was having a lot of chats on the ice. He pulled Draisaitl for a pre-practice chat. I don't know which group this is, but he had a group of players, and then he spoke with the whole team. So he was having a lot of different discussions with the players out at practice. Full update of Oilers practice will come at noon today right here in Edmonton Sports Talk, because it is the Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola. Tommy not here in the Hangout today because he's at practice. And then he'll have the Oil Stream pregame show coming up 5 o'clock tonight, because, again, it is an earlier game, 6:30, because there's only 2 games in the NHL. The Oilers are the first game, and then I think it's Avs Kraken or something, the second game. So that's why it's a 6:30 game. Actually, both home games this week are 6:30, so just a little bit sooner. I don't know. Is that
my
good for
jet
people?
lag is like torturing me, so it's like
long you
really
been
good for me. Just over a week now.
Are you still feeling it?
Not as bad anymore, but last week was awful. I didn't even stay up and watch the San Jose game because, so this is the weirdest jet lag I've ever had. Like, Europe jet lag, I find to be the simplest thing in the world. Like, you wake up early, like a couple days in a row, and then like it's gone, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're like, oh, I'm kind of happy I'm up at 6:15 in the morning. Like now I'll get my day started earlier. This has been the exact opposite. I can't sleep at night. And of course I'm working, right? So I have to be up in the morning. And so it's like 1:30, 2, and I'm just like, I'm in hell. And I'm such a good sleeper. So now I've like totally gotten in my head. And I did not help. Let me also say that I am 42 years old, still haven't grown up. Rather than like nurse this jet lag and try to get better, I went out Friday, Saturday, and last night. So now I've stayed up super late.
Hey,
which
you're
is
at
just
Shania.
yeah, well, I don't want to talk about that. Not for me. Not for me. Not
What did Shania do to you?
really?
No, just not for me. Not my favorite show.
Oh. Was she just no good or just not your scene?
she was fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not my, I've realized now, like, the songs that I know were super fun. Not my jam to have this like real performative like backup dancers. Like, the backup dancers were so awkward, you guys. And the one guy kept going up behind her and putting his arms around her and like dancing with her. I don't even know how to talk about it, okay? It wasn't my favorite. I was just like, I just sat there pretty shocked the whole time. But she seems like a really nice lady. Her voice
She
is
seems
still there.
lovely.
Back, yeah.
Her show sucks.
Like, she was like, she really wanted to engage with the fans. It just wasn't for me.
It was at Rogers?
It was at Rogers.
Full House?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
her second show she's done
Third
this year.
show.
Yeah.
Third
That's
show
right,
this
she
year
did.
that's sold
This
out.
year.
I get why the appeal of like wanting to go, and then like, she finishes with feel like a woman, I feel like a woman, like, so you're like, yes. But like, why not? Like, yeah. Let's not talk about it anymore. It's been a
After
really
12
negative
no's
show.
Here, right? Like this. No. Yes. She got you at the last one.
She got me with the last
There
song.
you
There
go.
was, and then like,
It's like
Any
golf.
Man of
like
Mine
18
was a
hole
good
comes,
one.
You're so thrilled and you're ready to
Yes.
golf the next round.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. So anyway, so I have not helped myself. So I didn't even actually stay up for the San Jose game. I listened to Bob and Cam for a little bit, but I had to like, what I had to do last week was wind down earlier. I couldn't just stay up and then try to wind down at 11:30. Like, I had to like start winding down at 8:30, because if it took me 4 hours to get to sleep, I had to.
You didn't miss anything.
That's exactly it, right?
I didn't miss
And my
anything.
brother, who, bless him, what a die-hard Oilers fan. He's out in the East. He's got 2 little girls. Still stays up for those 8 o'clock games, which are 10 o'clock p.m. for him. So he's up till
That's
1 in the
8:30,
morning.
wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That one was 8:30.
Yeah, that one was 8.
San Jose
No.
was 8:30.
But how old are
San
his
Jose.
kids?
4 and 1.5.
So they're not down until that time anyway. Speaking as a parent of young kids, that's perfect. I love the later starts because it
yeah?
gives me a chance to get the kids down to bed. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but
they stay
10,
for the first
and now he's
Yeah.
up till like 1:30
I'm up
in the
that late every
morning.
night. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm an angel sleeper. I go to bed so early. I love sleep. I think it's the most important thing in self-care. So when I can't sleep because of jet lag, but where was I going with this? Oh yeah, and he was just like, I can't take this. I'm going to bed. And then I wake up in the morning to like multiple more texts of like, of course this is happening right now. And I was like, oh, so you didn't go to bed?
Go to bed.
You absolutely. Meanwhile, I was like, I had a great sleep last night. Finally.
Do you know what's funny? Like, that Friday, it was quiet in Edmonton. the road, like Murray
Yeah.
McCourt came in for the hangout. He said it was quiet on the roads coming in. Tommy
school.
said the same thing. Like there was a lot of people that like it just seemed like one, it's a late start, so people were tired. But I don't know, just people you can't go to bed frustrated.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of Oiler fans were frustrated after that one, and they couldn't wind down, and they probably couldn't sleep. So you were one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, I was sound asleep through all that torture.
Yes, I watched it. Well, after getting the kids down, and I watched it, and just in horror of because I remember listening to the conversation
So
and
awful.
on I don't know if it was on the EST or if it was the morning show, but just what speaks more is if they win this game 8-1, okay, fine, but what if they only win it 2-1? And then the questions, and then it goes, well, then they lost it, and it was just
There could have been a salvaging if they won, I think, 2-0, let's say, but played a great overall team game. The Sharks had nothing.
Yep.
They scored the goals when they needed to, but shut everything down. I think there could have been I think there still would have been people going, should have won 7-0.
Yeah.
But there would have been more people like, hey, maybe they're figuring out how to win those type games. And that's what they're focusing on. But to just lose. And then that was Jay Woodcroft's job and Dave Manson. Just quick.
And
Go ahead.
There's no way that the players didn't know. Like that was my sense. Like I have to be honest. Like they knew that his job was on the line, and then they lose that game. I feel like that spoke volumes. To be really honest, like I was like I asked Devin
Ken
the
Holland
next
spoke
day.
to them.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't about should we make a change, he was speaking to them about the potential of a change. And that was the performance they came up with.
So yeah, that just kind of speaks pretty big volumes. Like I know that Leon had a really bad game, and I was just like, was it like he just threw it? Like he didn't care? He comes across like he doesn't care.
Yeah,
sometimes,
he's so good. He comes across as not. I wonder. So like you guys would know better about the injury side of this, but McDavid doesn't look right out there, and there's all that conversation out there. But there's even like Leon doesn't look right to me. He's still putting up points, but just that one timer against the Kraken the other night where it missed the net. It was like, God, he doesn't miss
his
that
finish
shot.
is off.
Yeah, so I'm not saying he's injured, but there's something.
Is that a confidence thing?
Maybe it is a confidence thing. Yes, I would always
Gripping
lose
the
this
sticks
argument.
too tight.
I would always lose this argument in the newsroom around that corner where it's like, I don't believe confidence. No, but yeah, I appreciate that. Okay.
Connor McDavid, again, this is from TSN's Ryan Rashog. He says McDavid looks pretty shell-shocked today.
Yeah.
McDavid said that he woke up to a text message like everyone else yesterday that he didn't know it was coming. Similar sense from Draisaitl. Both said this was on the players, not the coaches. So that's what you just have to say.
Obviously.
Look, they had to know that something was coming.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that even
And then
if,
they lost to San Jose.
But even if that, like, let's say Jeff Jackson is right on that. You just they have water everywhere. Quinn
There's
has
somehow a hole in the bottom.
yeah. You have like an aluminum. Like, how did you get a hole in that? Is what's beyond me.
Maybe
The cockroach
it was the
drilling through it.
cockroach that drilled a hole. I should have been checking the bottom of this water bottle before I filled it up again.
He's nested.
Now it's
you
here.
brought
I'm
the
gonna
Australian
release it.
cockroaches back.
I'm
these
going to
eggs.
release it in the building.
My
and Maddie
resignation
has
will
to
go in
deal-
right away. Dusty, it's been fun. I enjoyed these first 2.5 months, but I'm out. I can't do it.
There is potential of a cockroach in the building now, and from Australia.
It's Australian, so it's definitely poisonous. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
it'll
no,
kill you.
I'm gone. I'm moving out of the city. But okay, even if Jeff Jackson's right, they didn't talk to the players, they weren't consulted. Jay Woodcroft knew this was coming.
Yeah.
We saw what he said to Manson as he was walking off the ice against San Jose. We've already talked about how he was seen, the world was off his shoulders. Speaking to the media before and after the Kraken game, you at least knew something was coming.
Yeah.
Like you could not have seen. You've seen it enough in Edmonton yourselves.
Yeah.
To know that
Everybody,
this is-
yeah.
Like, I think the only surprise that I could see coming for anyone that didn't know, which I think was a surprise to a lot of people, was the fact that this change did come after a 4-1 game. That it wasn't can we see if Jay Woodcroft actually will turn this around? They won that first game, give him the Islander game, see if they can do it again and go a little further.
Was Tippett fired after a win?
Yeah, 2 wins.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
It's the Ken Holland way.
Well,
Who never fired
this
coaches
is the thing, and this
mid-season
is what I was
before.
thinking yesterday because he was asked that
Oh,
question
word.
about again, and he goes, "Well, in Detroit, I'd never done this," and he comes to Edmonton, he does it twice. Right? Yeah, the Edmonton model.
Things are going great for Ken Holland. He's going to remember his time in Edmonton so wonderfully.
Yeah,
Totally.
A lot of firsts.
Totally. I want to talk about Chris a little bit. Like talk
Blah, blah.
about like what time do you think he fell asleep last night?
Yeah.
Did he? And what time did he wake up? You know, like at least you have an ally going in there.
Yep.
You know Connor already.
Yep.
That's an easy one. But like what a day for like another for like a human being here.
Yeah.
Like what do we think? Did he get any sleep last night?
Not much. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I can't imagine he slept much. Imagine he was up early because now he's planning out a whole
Well, he's got to be ready.
He's got a
whole
game.
practice, the whole system.
It's not even you get a practice
Yeah.
beforehand. You
Yeah,
get
you
a morning skate and a game day.
Yeah.
Just like that, snap of the fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And imagine practice tomorrow, but then you got another game day. And the changes they need are defensive structure to stop leaking all these chances. So he made this comment yesterday where he believes in that defensive structure. And look, I've never been one to hold back the offensive players. I've got that. But I've always, all along the way, I've had my goalies have the best goals against average in the league. I was like, you're in Edmonton now, man. Like,
Part of his time in the
it's a
AHL had
struggle, right?
Shesterkin as his goalie.
Right?
So
Like it's yeah, I appreciate. I hope it's your defensive structure, and that's why I said like who's running the defensive side of things, and if it's him putting in the structure, maybe he's. I don't know much about this coach. Maybe he's a defensive mind. I don't know, but
one text we got yesterday during our special coverage was he's high risk, high reward type coach, that he lets the players almost go. So it's either going to be like, hey, this team's going to start putting up offensive goals again and they're going to start scoring and we're going to see those big scoring games again, or it's going to not go well because those offenses isn't going to be there.
Yeah.
Like it hasn't been this season. So that's an interesting time. And then the Oilers, of course, for a couple games at home, they go on that Eastern swing where they're in Tampa and they're in Florida and they're in Carolina and they're in Washington, and that always can have its issues. But maybe this team also needs to just get away with the new coach, get away from the distractions of Edmonton, and allow him to have some time to be with these players and try to get this season completely turned around. And
sure, it'd be nice to play some tough or less tough teams on that Eastern swing, right? Where's the
but that's the problem that the Oilers have had too, that they put themselves in. Is you look at the start of the season, it hasn't been a tough schedule.
No,
both in terms of games, days off, and then your opponents. So what does that mean? The rest of your season is going to have more of those difficult opponents. How are you going to play?
Because they've not seen Vegas, they've not seen Colorado, they've not seen like it's.
No Boston if you're
Right.
looking out east.
Yeah.
They've already played Philly twice, right? So they're done with
Well, I mean,
them.
they've played Vancouver. That went well.
Yeah.
3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
went well 3 times.
Yeah.
It went well.
Well, the season
3
series done with
times.
them, right? Like it's just.
Is it the season series? Is this like Calgary last year?
Well, I'm just trying. Well, how
Or
many
do they
times
have a
did play?
fourth one?
Well, but I mean by season series.
Oh,
mean,
no.
Like, it's over.
No,
It's over
You're
that
not
way.
catching them.
Yeah.
So there's no more. Yeah, there might be one more 4-point game with them, but
And that's why, though, it comes back to, I feel like you're only looking at wild card if you're making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which could
You're
then
chasing down
potentially
the
means the
Central team.
playoffs, you're going to the Central, which maybe is a little easier, but also at the same time, worse travel. Like you're going to be traveling a lot more, and it's.
But if you don't have to go through Vegas until the.
You might have to go through
final-
Colorado.
Yeah.
Listen, I have a wedding in Vegas at the end of April and was like really hoping that things would time out well for me.
Well, maybe they get that wild card spot that goes to Vegas.
Yeah.
First round.
Yeah, okay.
That's
not what I'm hoping for. I just want to go to a game in Vegas again. That was fun.
Yeah, it's a fun place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been?
Yeah, I went to the first game there, the Oilers' first game.
Oh, that must have been. Oh, and it was Connor's birthday.
Connor's birthday.
21st birthday.
So this is a
Hey,
big
I
happy
think the
birthday.
boys went too. Dustin
Yeah.
and Eric.
Yeah, no, I went with a
That's-
buddy. It was a lot of fun. Darnell Nurse winning, and it was OT, I think, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
one, and then he's like up against the glass,
Yeah,
like because
yeah.
they had the bye week.
And then
yeah.
we're walking out through the plaza there over to New York, and there's Craig McTavish out there giving everyone high fives. It was
Oh
like, this is-
God!
it was
like
so
it's
much fun.
it's so fun when they're when they're winning
Yeah.
and like the spirit and like
Well, spring in Edmonton
man.
is great because one, the weather's changed.
Yes.
We've got that weather change. So you're already in that good mood. And then the Oilers in this playoff run where we get to go outside and
everybody's
it's
friends.
just wonderful.
Yeah.
Outside of, things that are happening in the moss pit. Outside of that, everything is great. It's wonderful. And look, do we still think they make the playoffs? Like yes or no? Or right now, do you think they're making the playoffs?
No.
Okay. Yes
I'm
or
a no as well.
I still will think that they will find a way.
I'm going on
sneak
this.
it in.
Yeah, like we got to trust the St.
But it'll be
Louis
tight.
model.
But I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to be.
But I'm saying,
like
no,
they're
I'm
going to do
just-
anything in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think they find a way to sneak in. But we're talking about an exit in the first round type thing. or
I'm
maybe
saying no to
second.
counteract my Vegas bet. So I'm just trying to even
Oh, okay.
this. Yeah, that's all.
So now
holding
it's
out
not
hope.
your
putting
problem
that-
anyways.
Yeah.
You bet against them and you bet for them.
Right.
Put
so
that
now
energy
it's not
out
on
there.
So
It's not on
liked.
you.
Yeah.
Just a reminder for all the listeners out there, the EST pop-up store will be closing on Wednesday, so you have only 3 more days left to buy some EST merch until we open up a store again in the new year or something like that. I don't know. We really haven't discussed that yet. Hat, shirt, mug, toque, hoodie, sweatshirt, couple kid shirts are available. EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Go to the very top. It says EST Shop. You click that. All of our merch brought to you by the official merch partner of Edmonton Sports Talk. That's the Hive of Product Marketing. Products that bring the buzz. Check out the Hive of productmarketing.com. Also, you could sign up for the Nasty Club, which I was meant to announce this last week. I just forgot because the Oilers were sucking it big time, and the shows were just crazy talking about the Oilers. Each month, one of the listeners who has signed up for the Nasty Club annual memberships, either just the regular annual membership or the premium membership, you'll go into a draw to win a seat in the Hangout and join the Hangout one day. And the winner for October was Mike from Beaumont. I actually have the quick draw. It even has the date there. I took out a couple things. I hid them, so there's a couple of info that's gone. But it says Mike from Beaumont. I did a draw. Everyone was in there. It was done last week. So, Mike, I will be in touch with you. I don't know if you're listening or not right now, but you will be joining the Hangout at some point. We'll find a time that works for you. And, yeah, if you want to be on the Hangout, still time to go buy one of those annual memberships, and you go into the draw once a month for it.
Does Mike get to pick who of the regular Hangout people is with him?
No, I haven't thought of that. It'll be
That'd
me
be an extra little prize.
It'll be me and Tommy. Well, the problem is we got to first make it work for Mike.
Yeah.
When he could come in, and then let's say he wants to be on with Tom Vernon. Well, I don't know Tom's schedule, and then trying to figure that out, or if it's with
that's
you,
fair.
you might not
That's
feel
fair.
like it's.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
A lot of moving parts
haven't
there.
thought
A
of
lot
that
of moving
part.
parts. Yeah.
But if you're willing to volunteer, that if somebody wants to be with you, we'll make it work. Then.
I don't think anybody's going to want to be with me, but sure, yeah.
It's such a great crew that comes through here. You can't lose, right?
Yeah,
it's
that's
just-
exactly it.
yeah.
I'm here though. That's the
Exactly.
initial.
Yeah,
It starts off on a bad spot right there, but everyone else is fine. That's why Tommy will be there to make things good because Tommy makes things better.
See what happens when you like politics?
Oh, people hated me before that.
Oh.
People hated me. Not as bad, but because I was never afraid to have some opinions, and I've also taken some anti-traditional hockey opinions. I don't
good.
believe fighting should be in hockey and stuff like that. So that started it a little bit.
Yeah.
But then, the politics. Yeah.
And then just speaking of politics, so I just have to say, yesterday, I mean, obviously I texted you guys. I was super upset in the morning, went for a really long walk, and then came across the Free Palestine march. And it's just that reset everything. Because it was just okay. I'm standing here with my coffee just going home, right?
Mm.
And I'm upset about the Oilers and,
Puts
just
it
a
in
little bit of
perspective.
a little perspective check there.
Something going on
I don't
elsewhere, yeah.
I don't ever want to minimize what people are going through in their own lives and that kind of thing. I'm not trying to do that, but it was just a real sobering moment. My friend and I both just sat there, had a good cry, watching, these people go by, watching little kids have to scream no justice, no peace, and and yeah, that was a good reality check for sure.
Yeah, sports. It was one of the things that sports doesn't really matter in the end. Yeah. The world will move on if sports went away. I never thought I would actually experience that, but then COVID hit, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
we actually have to experience this, which sucked. But
Yeah.
the world can move on without sports. Do you guys have any other thoughts quickly on the Oilers, or you guys, we good?
I mean, we could probably go all day on the Oilers, but yeah, no,
we got only about
there's-
15 minutes left.
Yeah.
So,
What should we talk about then?
well, did anyone watch the CFL playoffs?
I did, and
Okay.
the games were so good, right? Just
I watched the first one. I didn't get a
pure
chance to watch the
domination
second one.
by the Alouettes on that Argos. Their
Absolutely.
defense was just
Right with the pick six
Wild.
on that first drive.
Yeah.
It looked like the Argos were going to run away with this game. They're marching down,
Yeah.
picking the Owls apart, and then boom,
Yeah.
7-0 Alouettes.
Yeah. And just continuation, just drive after, just completely dominating them. No one saw this coming.
Nope.
You saw me wear the Rough Rider hoodie. And so I look at this game as the Grey Cup games. We got the second game, the Bombers. That Bombers-Lions game was just as good. That was such a fun watch as well. And we've got the last two Rider quarterbacks facing off against each other in the Grey Cup was Zach Collaros and Cody Fajardo, right? Like, it's just
Must feel great to be a Rider fan.
So, I mean, Trevor Harris is probably
your
going.
OC.
Yeah.
Well, and if you want to talk about
Coach.
coaching in Edmonton and just like,
I will say
Jason
this about
Moss.
Jason Moss. Jason Moss does not have this success with Edmonton. He learned from his mistakes of Edmonton.
Yeah.
He is not the same coach with
No.
Montreal that he was in Edmonton. That I still don't think it was a mistake for the Elks to move on from him because I don't think he learns if he doesn't have to go back and be an OC again and reset as being a coach. This doesn't happen without that.
Yep.
So it's made for some interesting conversations in Rider Nation, right? Where it's like, well, Fajardo and Moss can do it there. What's wrong here? And so they're looking through their own coaching, their coaching search. So there's a lot of, should Richie Hall be brought back in for a head coach? Well, we saw that experience in Edmonton. Or should it be...
Well, there's Milanovic.
Milanovic is out there. Buck Pierce, right? Look what he's doing in Winnipeg there. I love the idea of Uncle Buck. I could make my profile picture, John Candy on the sideline or something, right? Like, I don't know. But
Eric's brother Lucas is a big Uncle Buck fan of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And a Rider fan. That would
look at this,
he
right?
might really
You
like
gotta start
that actually.
something, right?
The flip side to that is you go defense and is Noel Thorpe a guy to look at?
Yeah.
For the Riders.
I just love that they're having the conversation because when Chris Jones left, there wasn't really a conversation because he left so late in the process. It was okay, Dickie, you're up, and it was basically the same coaching staff, and
they were trending on the right
right,
direction.
and they had a couple really good years
Yeah.
under him. But then it just kind of, they haven't had an offensive line, and things have gone sideways, and we'll see where they go with their personnel this offseason. But back to the teams that are actually playing.
Well, before we do that, do you have confidence Jeremy O'Day being the GM?
Yes, give him one more coach. I mean, because they have talent there, right? And he's built teams that have been good. It's just they run into that Winnipeg juggernaut, those two playoffs. Had Fajardo not hit the upright on that pass in that final play of the game, right? It's a different story.
They're probably in the Grey Cup that year in 19.
And that was a really good team. And look, you take that dip, and it was a bad year this year. They started off really hot last year, and then it went sideways. They were on their third string quarterback all year this year, right? Had Trevor Harris not gotten hurt, do they have 2 more wins this year? And are they losing to PC in the Western Semi? Right?
Are they going 7 straight losses at the end of the season?
Right? So if you got they were Dolegala, he's their third stringer, right? Because Mason Fine was their second, right? So, Jeremy O'Day, sure, why not? Give him another run. I'm okay with that.
Now back to
the
teams.
game. This Bombers Als matchup, it is just, I'm really looking forward to seeing Fajardo get another shot at this team. And it may go sideways, and Winnipeg may just dominate them and blow them up. But with what I saw Montreal's defense do against the Argos, and admittedly, Kelly didn't play that well. But
No.
Yeah.
but if you see that Montreal defense show up on Grey Cup Sunday against this juggernaut of a Winnipeg team, that's going to be a
Unfortunately,
really good game.
though, that they are going up against a quarterback who's not going to make those mistakes because.
Yeah.
Well, how many turnovers did the
Claros
Als
is
defense
just-
have yesterday? I think 6.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not having 6 again in the Grey Cup.
Yeah.
But can they
So-
manage 2?
Yeah. And so
And does that make the game different then?
I'd love to see it for Armando Sewell.
Yeah.
I just love that guy. And
I just want the Bombers to lose.
yes, yeah, it's been very difficult as a Rider fan watching these last few years. But
I just don't like the dominance. And like being from Edmonton Elks fan, like I don't want to see a new dynasty or something.
yeah,
I want them to lose so they can't claim a dynasty.
Yeah, we got it.
it's fair.
Well, how many times if like they'd win 3 or 4? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think you would have seen a team be that good since
Montreal.
Think about their
Calvillo
struggles,
era.
though.
But they didn't even win that much.
How many
Well,
did
they won
Calvillo
1
win?
in 02. Well, they won late, like it was separated. They won the 2 against. We don't need to go
Riders.
into those 2.
Yeah. Well,
And then they won in 02.
Yeah.
They made Grey Cups, but they
Yeah.
won a little separated.
That's right, yeah.
The Elks only won 2 with the Ricky Ray era.
yeah,
I think you're almost going back to like that stretch of the Elks of 5 in a row.
yeah.
Yeah.
As a real, true, full-on dynasty, and that's where the Bombers. I don't want it. I don't want them to have any claim. I don't want them to win.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah,
I
I'm against them.
really wanted O'Shea to get bored of it because remember he was up, his contract was up.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, Riders, throw every title you can at him. Do the Chris Jones thing and
Well,
bring
the
him
flip
here,
on that
right?
is Walters, their GM, is his contract's up after this year, and the talk was the Riders would try to go after him. And
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't wait to see if they could maybe go grab him.
Like maybe they know something, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe they're going to keep the band together, right? So. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Grey Cup this weekend because we had 2 really good games this past weekend, and just I love Grey Cup Sunday. I love Grey Cup week.
I know,
I was in
I should
Regina
be
for it, and
there.
it was there.
Yeah.
And when it's here, it's so much fun, and it's
Vancouver
I-
next year.
I love
Yeah.
those groups that travel every year.
Yep.
And so Mark Schultz of, former Big Breakfast Television.
Channel.
A channel. Yeah, I worked there. Loved that show so much. I worked on that show. Loved it so much when I was younger. But when I was living in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, my first TV job, I went to the Grey Cup in Regina in 2003. Al's Edmonton football team. And Mark Schultz, I went with his group of friends because they traveled every year, and we just had an absolute blast. You never not have fun at a Grey Cup. So
I didn't really enjoy or experience Grey Cup until 18 when it came here.
Yep.
And I remember going in, Dave Jamieson was like, it's just the biggest kitchen party.
Yeah.
And I went, and I was
great
like,
way to put it.
You're 100% right. Like, there's no other way to put this
Yeah.
than it's just a massive kitchen party.
yeah, there's
in Canada.
nothing fancy about
No.
it. Like it's just like we're all gathering.
Yeah.
And you never know who you're going to run into and who you're going to see.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
it's just the best.
It's got that feeling. Have you covered Briars or Scotty's,
Yes.
right? And you go to that and you go to the patch after, and it's that feeling.
patch, yeah.
And I just love it. It's just pure
I know.
Canadiana, right?
I just wanted to get younger. That's all. Like that's just my
Yeah,
big
it's
thing.
tough.
Like it's like the last time I was in Edmonton, I was just like, "Ooh, okay."
Yeah.
Like I would love to see
Really?
more of my friends here. I
Oh,
thought it was a bit older.
People I know in like my age group, we were all there.
Yeah.
I knew a bunch of people that were at that one. So
Really? Okay. Well, I need new friends then.
I got to go to it in 13 when
Taking
the Riders
applications.
won. I
Yeah.
got to watch them win in person there, and I just moved back to Edmonton, but my wife and I, we went down. It was before we had kids, so we could just go wherever we wanted, whenever we wanted. So we went down, and she had tickets because she was a season ticket holder. We had moved that year, and then it was like 4 days before the game. I'm like, man, I'm getting excited. Like, I don't have a ticket to this game. So I asked her, she worked in the Rider ticket office for years through university. She goes, well, I'll ask. Like, there's always holdback tickets. So she asked her friends in the Rider, like, are there any tickets? Oh yeah, we've got tickets. So my buddy Chad and I went, and we just
Good for you.
watch your
the
team.
end zone there, watch your team win, and just like I'm getting goosebumps here remembering it. There's nothing like Grey Cup weekend, and to be in the building when your team won it at home. Yeah,
I was opposite in 02. I was there when
You were there?
Edmonton lost to Montreal.
Yeah.
And then I was in 10 when the Riders met the Owls. And it was way better because I had no rooting interest in that
Yeah.
point. It was great watching a team where no emotions almost. And you're just enjoying the football. So Grey Cup's the best.
my very first chance at covering sports on television. I grew up in Edmonton, north of Edmonton, but I grew up here watching Darren Tatishin, Paris Lukowski, watching those guys, growing up going like, this is what I want to do. And when I went to Regina, started working at Global, I wasn't a full-time sports guy. I was the backup sports guy. So Grey Cup 09, both sports guys were off to Calgary to cover it. They needed someone to sit on the desk that week to do sports and do the sports reporting from there. So I got to sit, cover the Riders through that 09, through that week, right? And then the Grey Cup games. I was cutting the highlights that night to throw to Warren Woods for him to do. I ended up voicing him over because it's like there's no way he could line it up.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember standing in the newsroom, watching it, cutting highlights, and then the kick is missed, right? My news director, Brent, is over here jumping, cheering. Our anchor, Heather's over here jumping, cheering. I'm standing here going, what's that flag? What's that flag? And it, the rest is history. The number of stories, news stories I pulled out of that 13th man, because they did it again, opening game against Montreal, Canada Day. Did a story then. We did a full feature story when they hosted the Grey Cup in 13, right? Just so as awful as that moment was, it led to so much
great for your
sports
career.
reporting, right? Just like I'm covering my dream team, and it's the story of it's the CFL story of the century, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just
Yeah.
They'll never be forgotten.
No.
The other football I have to mention from this weekend, devastating results out in Vancouver as the Golden Bears fall to the
I didn't want
Thunderbirds.
to talk about this.
I have to, because I will say this. I can't imagine being those boys and losing in that fashion, but an unbelievably great season by that team. They put together a great year. Blake Nill, head coach at UBC, said after the game on the broadcast, they got lucky to win that game. He even admitted it, that like neither team should have really lost that. It was like, if you didn't have a rooting interest in that, that may have actually been the best football game of the weekend in Canada. Just pure. Like the CFL was great.
Yeah.
The Hardy Cup was fantastic. But a crushing loss for the Golden Bears. Disappointing we're not getting the Mitchell Bowl coming up here on Saturday in Edmonton. But this team is going to be back mostly next year. Not many graduates. I think there's only 4. So it's going to be a good team again next year. They could have that whole redemption in their mind for next year.
Yeah.
But excellent season to the Golden Bears football team. But a difficult way to lose from looking like it was done to all of a sudden losing that game. It was tough. But again, great season by Chris Morris and the boys.
I got to just say, because when I was working at Global, that was when Chris Morris had started, was building this team. They were still having winless seasons, and he just believed in himself and what they were doing. I remember I even did a story on junior football in Edmonton, how like the feeder system for the Bears just wasn't even that good. It was a little discombobulated and stuff. And so it is so rewarding to see them come to this. Yes, the heartbreak, but just that path, it was a long path and it was a bumpy path. And like, just kudos to everybody in that organization for like believing that. I remember I even asked the athletic director at the U of A if Chris Morris would stay. Ian Reid.
It got to a point in the last couple of years where you're thinking you're not even getting a little bit of results. I felt like.
Oh,
but
100%.
Now they're coming and they're pumping out players. And I just don't see how they go backwards from here.
But Chris Morris always said that. He always said, like, you need to elevate your level, and then the younger guys, like... So, like, I mean, I feel bad for the guys that were in those first few years because, like, you didn't see the results, but you genuinely were part of the process. Like, you helped this all.
Well,
like, every little step, the puzzle pieces came together.
And what was tough for Chris, but also great for Chris, like, I respect him for this, is that he was an educator. He believes in the athletics or the student before the athletics. Mm-hmm. And the U of A has an academic standard that he wanted to maintain. He didn't want to lower that for football so that the people can win. Other schools will do that. He didn't want to do that. Yeah. He wanted players to come in that still had the academic standards of the U of A, but then also could play football. And that takes a while to overcome that too. And
100%. His always was, every time I talk to him, we want good people. We want to have good people become good players here.
Is it Labor Day this season starts? I think Labor Day is week 1. Can't wait for Labor Day already next year. It's going to be a wonderful time. Quinn, thanks for finding time to join us yet again.
Of course. Well, I have the day off, man. So this is corporate life. We get the long weekend.
The water. Dusty didn't give it to us off here.
He's the boss? Really?
He's the boss. Oh, yeah.
Dusty, okay.
This is Dusty's.
I thought that this was just like...
Oh, we're all together.
Anarchy,
but no, Dusty's...
Okay, so there is a corporate pyramid here.
So there's not 5 people, and you have to have 3 votes to.
Yeah, we're not the Edmonton. We have a better organizational structure here at Edmonton Sports Talk than the Edmonton Oilers.
So decisions are made by Dustin Nielsen.
He'd be the final call. If we need a decision, ultimate decision maker, it is Dusty. He can overrule everyone.
I'm glad I know this now.
We have a structure.
Yeah, I don't have to ask this anymore. Good.
Tom, it was great meeting you, but it was great also having you on and talking some sports with you. I wish we could have talked some politics because I love that, but our listeners didn't really want to go fully into that. So
different audience. No, thanks for having me on. This was so much fun. Like this, when you sent me that email, I was like, really? Let's go. Like I looked at my calendar. I was like, we're moving stuff. So I really appreciate this.
Well, hopefully we can have you on again.
Love to
at some point. And thank you.
Thank you.
This was a fun one. They're not always like this with the Oilers, where it's just this easy, where they give us all this content and it just continues. Coming up next here on EST, it is the Lock Shop. Dusty and Huss will get you set for the Monday Nighter Oiler game tonight. Then look back on the week. And then, like I said, at noon, the Oilers were practicing. They got a game tonight. Tommy was there. Him and Dustin Nielsen with the Oil Stream. You can catch that right here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, SportsTalk.com, on our TuneIn channel, or those watching on YouTube, just keep watching. We'll redirect you to Lock Shop, then we'll redirect you to the Oil Stream, and you are covered all day. On behalf of Tom Vernon, Quinn Phillips, I'm Matt Iwanyk. Thanks for tuning in to the EST Hangout, brought to you by Mott's Clamato Caesar. Coming up next, it is the Lock Shop. Stay tuned for that in just minutes.